Hey guys, I am not sure if you guys can see me or if you can hear me, but welcome to the live stream. It's a few minutes and yeah, a few minutes and we'll start. So in the meantime, I thought I'd just say hello to all of you guys and let me just put my phone on silent so it doesn't bug me. Right, fantastic. Oh, great. We have a bunch of people joining in. Hi, guys. I can see you all over there. I apologize for the bad audio. I know that it's not very good. I did a little test, and unfortunately, it's just the room is very echoey, and the microphone is in the laptop, and I can't plug in an external mic, so I apologize in advance for that. Cool. Awesome. Hi, guys. I see you all arriving here. Fantastic. All right, good. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to basically tell you what I'm planning for tonight anyway, is, give me a second. What I'm planning for is just to have a chat with you guys, a very open chat about a couple of different topics, nothing really in particular. I've got one or two things in mind, and I'm thinking, that I'll talk about sort of the balance of being a foreigner here and a couple of the things that are happening in China, but I mostly would like to answer your questions and some of the things that you would like to talk about and what you would like to ask me about. And I'm going to be drinking this, which is by far the best Chinese produced beer that there is. And I've tried it once or twice, and it's fantastic. It's basically Qingdao. And Qingdao beer it comes from the city of Qingdao, which used to be a German concession port. So this is actually German beer, really, because they started the breweries and everything, and it was taken over by the locals, and they started to produce stuff. But the quality of Qingdao has been declining since I got to China. It's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It is a lager type of beer, which is my favorite kind of beer. But it's literally the quality's just been bad. There's been a lot of fakes, and I've kind of stopped drinking Qingdao just because it's crap these days. But if you find a real one, it tastes nice, but Anyway, so they've just released this. It's not cheap. It costs about 100 RMB for one of these, and that is, let me tell you what that is in US dollars to give you guys an idea. 1 second, I'm gonna look it up here. Okay, so 100 CNY in USD. Let's see. It's about $15. Okay, so 15 US dollars for one of these. I bought two, should be enough for tonight. And it comes in an aluminium container. So this is actually aluminium, and it's incredibly cold. It keeps it cold, and it's got this pull tab. So let's just open it up. And yeah, there we go. Let's see. Let's try this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is fantastic. I should probably have gotten a glass to pour it into, because that would look better, right? You guys could see. Oh, well, I'm just going to have to deal with it. It's really delicious. It's awesome. So, how many liters per bottle? Let's take a look. It says 1 liter. Yisheng. Liter in Chinese is sheng. And if you're curious, this just says Qingdao Pijiu, and Qingdao is the place. And there says beer, Qingdao beer. Hey, how's it going? Thank you very much, Pekin Baby 3107. Glad you enjoy the videos. Yeah, this is awesome. So, guys, I just wanted to start, because now it is time to start. It is just past 8. I wanted to start by saying a massive thank you for all of the positive feedback I got from my last video, which I released 2 days ago. It's been overwhelming, and it's just so good to see. I was really worried about releasing that video, and it's very good to see the positive feedback from it. So thank you. I got a couple of people here saying things like, do I miss South African beer? What's a raw beer? from Randall. This is raw beer. They say original beer, but I guess in the Chinese it kind of sounds like raw beer. You know, sheng pijiu. Sheng means like fresh, I guess, raw, and it's usually used to describe draft beer, but I could say it's raw beer, so there we go. As for missing beer in South Africa, yes, actually I do. Kind of forgotten what it tastes like. When I was in Japan, my friend Dark gave me a beer from South Africa, which he had for some reason. And I made a small little video. I filmed it. I tried it out. It was actually pretty nice. I'll be posting that at some point. But yeah, South African beer is actually very good. But I prefer the German beer from Windhoek, sorry, and Windhoek Lager, which is in Southwest Africa, also known as Namibia. You know, that's really good stuff. Anyway, let's get started, guys. I would like you to ask me some questions. I'm just going to answer them, and then I've got a little bit of a topic to talk about, like I said, but let's just let's see what you guys have in store for me over here. Someone's asking, why did I choose China over a white majority country like Britain? It's a good question, and it is actually something something that I suppose I've been meaning to talk about. So let's see. I'm going to talk about. I'll just. Sorry, my phone. I thought I put it on silent. I guess it's going on airplane mode right now. Okay. I chose China for a number of reasons. First of all, adventure. It was something completely different. I didn't choose China on purpose. China kind of chose me. I went here on a business trip, and I had so much fun and such an amazing experience in 3 days. It blew my mind. And I decided I wanted to be here. So I made plans to come here. And you have to also understand that with the passport I have, which I'll dig it out for you here, it is called, well, there we go. See, the South African passport. This is about as useful as, I don't know, it's about as useful as a refrigerator in Alaska in the middle of winter. Almost every single country that you can think of, if I want to travel there, I need a visa, including the UK. So if I want to go to England, I have to apply for a visa. It's a lengthy process. It includes providing proof that I have money in the bank. All of my flights, all of my accommodation bookings have to be there. I need a guarantee letter, all sorts of nonsense. And this goes for most countries. Like, you know, I just went to Japan. That took me like a good 2 or 3 weeks of processing a visa to actually get a visa, just a visitor's visa for a short period of time, a 10-day visitor's visa. It was really a huge pain in the ass. And it included things like I had to get a guarantee from my wife because I don't technically have a job, right? And for a South African to get a tourist visa to Japan, you need to have a guarantee from a company that you're working for that you're coming back to your country. So it needs to basically say that you work for that country. It has to be on their letterhead. It has to be stamped, all that kind of crap. And I couldn't provide that because I don't work for any company, right? Anyway, the fact of the matter is my wife was able to, because she has a government job here in a hospital, I was able to get the visa because she guaranteed me, which is quite silly, really. But yeah, it was a huge thing. So yes, moving to another country is incredibly difficult if you have a South African passport. Immigrating to any country is incredibly difficult. Coming to China was also very difficult and a lot more difficult than most other nationalities. But the fact of the matter is, I got a taste of this amazing adventure and I wanted more, and so I came to China. That's why I chose China. Okay, let's see what's next on the list. Someone says that passport looks badass. Well, we call it the Green Mamba. You know, I might have my old passport here somewhere, and I'd like to, you know what I do? It's kind of weird. I don't know how we got onto this subject, but let me show you. South African passports used to look quite different. Here's my old South African passport. Now, obviously, I don't want to show you any of my details here, because otherwise the the trolls will come and get me. But I don't know if you can see the old coat of arms in there. Sorry, it's really old. But that's a very sort of European-looking coat of arms. And, well, it's got all sorts of interesting things in here about how the country will, sort of support the citizen no matter what, all that kind of crap. The new one, not so much. The new one basically just says, it has one page, almost gave you guys my number there. It's got one page, just like that, which doesn't really say much. And the new coat of arms, you can see here, is that. That's the new South African coat of arms. Anyway, enough about that. Let us move on to a different topic. Okay, so put all this crap away. Let's get to, sorry guys, I have to quickly get to the super chats before they run out. Well, thank you very much, the Megabit Gamer. I appreciate that, and I certainly will. Someone here says they're immigrating to Australia next month from Scotland. Okay, what is tough about being away from family and the normal routine? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, I'm not very normal, I've got to admit. I love my family, I love my parents. My sister, I'm like, on the fence, but she's still my sister, so I still love her. The thing is, I left home at a fairly young age. I got a job at a fairly young age. I always wanted to be independent, and I'm not the kind of person who, sticks around with family a lot. I wouldn't say that I'm somebody who doesn't like hanging out with family. I do love my family and stuff, but I'm not dependent on them. That's what I want to say. Is I'm not dependent on my family. So even when I was living nearby, in fact, even when I lived on the same property as my family, but hiring like a cottage from them, I wouldn't see them that often, And so for me to travel overseas and live like this and be far away from my family, it's never been a very hard thing for me to do, because at the end of the day, I still love them, and I still think about them sometimes, and when we get together, it's like I've never left. So it's a different kind of a thing. But it can be tough when all of your friends and your family are halfway across the world. All you can do really is focus on life and focus on your goals and focus on it getting better. And luckily, I had a lot of opportunity to do that, because I was not back to square one when I moved to China. So I had so much to focus on, just to be able to make a living, to be able to afford rent, to be able to build myself up. So I was focused on that, and things like family and all that, I could send them an email every once in a while, and it'd be okay. Right, let's move on to the next one. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Somebody's asking about how long do I think China will take to catch up on social etiquette. It's going to be a while, and I'll tell you why. Basically, the way China's family system works is you get a young couple, they get married, they have a child, but then they don't really look after the child. Their parents look after the child. So the grandparents basically move in, and they look after the child. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anyone's question here. Give me a second. Well, thank you very much. Someone here is saying, like, I inspired them to learn Chinese. I appreciate that. Thanks from the Taiwan guy. Sorry, I don't want to miss anyone's questions. Anyway, back to the whole social etiquette thing. Because you've got the grandparents looking after the child, they are of the generation right now that went through all the turmoil in China. They're the people that saw all the starvation, saw all the war, all the crap that basically went on in China. And so a lot of them didn't get educated. A lot of them are illiterate. And of course, things like manners are not high up on the, what should I say? It's not really a priority when you're starving and all that kind of stuff. So when you've got that kind of a person bringing up your child, they'll be taking the child around during the day, and they'll be spitting, and they'll be letting the child urinate in public, and they'll be doing all these sort of bad behaviors, these uncivilized behaviors, and of course that imprints on the child. So when the child grows up, they're going to, think that kind of behavior is normal. And so it's going to take probably 2 generations before the bad behavior really gets completely sort of, pushed away, because I do see big improvements. Like my wife, she doesn't do that. Her parents do, not that much though. I'm very grateful because her parents come from a middle class family. Her father used to work in Hong Kong when she was young and things like that. So um, they behave in a civilized manner most of the time. But I do pick, I do go over and visit and hear the mother-in-law kind of doing the whole thing, and I think to myself, come on, that kind of thing. But whatever. In Hong Kong, they had to make drastic strides to get rid of that kind of behavior by basically levying huge fines. And it's still valid today. If you go to Hong Kong, you'll see signs everywhere that say a $5,000 fine if you spit in certain areas, things like that. And it worked, because if you go to Hong Kong, the behavior is night and day, basically, from mainland. Although, to be fair, Shenzhen has improved a lot since I've been here. And Shenzhen really is one of the most civilized cities in China, from my personal experience. Okay, let's see what's on with the next question. Someone's asking, since I'm from South Africa, do I speak a bit of Dutch? Yes. In school we had to learn, we had to learn Afrikaans as a second language, and then later on we had to learn Zulu as well. So believe it or not, I can speak a bit of Zulu. I can speak some Afrikaans, admittedly not very well, but my Afrikaans is better than my Zulu anyway. Let's see what's next. Okay. Someone's asking about firearms in China. You're not allowed to own a firearm in China at all. In fact, there's a case a short while ago, about a year or 2 ago, a young guy, like a teenage, well, I'd say late teens, probably 18, 19 years old, he imported some airsoft, like BB guns from Taiwan, I think it was. Because, in Taiwan and Japan, they've got those like very kind of like gun hobby stuff where you can buy a BB gun that looks real, Anyway, this guy was just a huge sort of like a gun hobbyist, but, young guy, didn't have any guns. And he imported something like 5 of these like realistic looking guns from either Japan or Taiwan. And he was arrested and jailed. And he's now serving like some stupid amount, like 15 or 20 years in jail for bringing in BB guns. Guns are complete, nonsense, complete nonsense here in China. You can't get them. Police do have them, obviously, and the state has them, but civilians are not allowed to own them. If you watch Conquering Northern China, we actually interviewed a bunch of those sort of reindeer herders up in the north of China, and they used to be able to hunt and have a gun, but the government has taken them all away from them now. Okay, let me check these other things. Next one was, fellow expat in South Africa, how often do you lie about your origin? Okay. All the time. And I get criticized for this a lot. I get criticized because if you watch my videos and on the street, Chinese people ask me, "Nishanali Rena," which means, where are you from? What's your nationality? I always say, 我是英国人, which means I'm British, basically. Means I'm from the UK. And the reason I do that is just because of the ignorance when it comes to nationalities and geography in China. And it's something that you will pick up very quickly when you're in China, is that people don't know much. I'm talking about the average people on the street, don't know much about the outside world here, because China is very China-centric. Like all the news is kind of about China, or what other countries are saying about China, or how China's dealing with other countries. It's all kind of around China. So they don't really learn the fact that there are white people in South Africa, for instance, and all that kind of nonsense. So if you say you're from South Africa, if I say 我是南非人, which means South African, then the first question I get every single time is like, why aren't you black? Or but you're not black. And it's just a stupid, annoying thing to explain every time. Let me put it that way. It really actually irritates the crap out of me. Hang on a second. Someone was saying, going to Sharma next month. Will it be hard to send money back home to the USA for my student debt? It's a good question, which I will answer in a second. And someone said, do you miss Steers at all? Yes, I miss Steers. I miss Spur as well. Anyway, what I was saying about the whole saying I'm from England thing is, it's not really that much of a bending of the truth, because my family is British. You know, I've got a British grandfather, a British grandmother. Actually, not anymore; they're dead, obviously. But my mother has a British passport. I can't get one because she's second generation. She was born in South Africa, and there's some stupid rule that you know, you can't get a passport passed on to you if your mother is second generation. There's some weird laws going on there, whatever. But, you know, I grew up in a British household, you know, with British ideals and, you know, speaking English and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if I say I'm British, it's 90% correct. I just happen to have been born in South Africa. So I don't think it's a, you know, it's telling a lie. It's just it's a little white bending of the truth. Anyway, back to the paying your student loan thing. Okay, this is complicated, so let me take a sip. That is really good beer. I'm not joking. If you are in China, if you see this, I know it's expensive, and this is not a paid advertisement, because I don't do that on my channel. But if I like something, you'll know about it. Okay, getting money out of China has become increasingly difficult here. Like seriously, it's not a joke. For a foreigner, you can't even get US dollars anymore. And I found this out the hard way a short while ago. I wanted to send some US dollars. It was actually in 2016, because I bought that Corvette in America, right? And I wanted to send some US dollars to my friend in America. So I thought, okay, no problem. I can just go to a Western Union over here, because I do have Western Union outlets. And I thought, let me go to a Western Union, give them some US dollars, send it to my friend. So I went with the equivalent amount of money that I needed in RMB, which people ask me this a lot. They say, what is RMB? Well, RMB is, give me a second. That is 中国人民银行, which means the People's Bank of China, basically. Or, yeah, yes, that's correct. And there we go. There you can see. It says 中国人民银行. Now, renmin over here means peoples. You know, it's kind of like a very communist way of saying, you know, the People's Factory #2, or, you know, it's very Soviet sort of stuff. But you see that everywhere, like the second People's Hospital of Shenzhen, or the first People's Hospital. It's all about the people's this, the people's that, because that's, you know, socialism, communism, all that stuff. That's how it works, right? So RMB, B is like a denomination of money. So Gambi, for instance, is Hong Kong dollars. So renminbi means people's money. So instead of saying renminbi every single time, you say RMB. So that's what it is. See, someone's talking. Okay. I'll get to you in a minute, Oscar. So you want to learn Chinese and live in China? Yep. Okay. So getting money out. I took a whole bunch of RMB to the bank, and it was a bank that had Western Union. And, you know, I said, here, I would like to change this into US dollars, because first of all, I went to the Western Union and I said, can I send this RMB to America? They said, no, you know, you have to change it into the currency that you wanted to, you know, appear in whatever country. So I thought, oh, okay, fine. So I went to the cashier, and they've got like a foreign exchange. I said, I'd like to change this into US dollars. And they're like, sorry, foreigners can't do that. And I thought, you know, this is weird, because a week before I'd actually taken some US dollars and I changed them into RMB, because you can do that. So I was like, are you sure? Because like last week I changed some money from US dollars into, um, you know, into RMB. And they said, yeah, you can do that. If you want to do that, no problem. Just give us the US dollars. And I found out that it wasn't just that bank. I went to multiple banks, and every single bank had the same story. And it turns out it's true because there's a lot of capital flight out of China. And what happens is, corrupt politicians or, like whoever, like dodgy factory owners and stuff, they get all this money, change it into US dollars, and then they just kind of walk over the border into Hong Kong, or they send it with people, or they do all these dodgy deals where they go to Macau and gamble the money and lose it, but it's not really. They have a deal and get kickbacks. So in order to stop money laundering and capital flight, they basically said, okay, the only way we can control this is if we stop foreigners from being able to change into US dollars, because we don't want the US dollars to leave. And on top of that, Chinese people can change, but then we can keep closer track because it's all linked to their ID card. You know what I mean? So that's why they basically went with that whole thing. So to get US dollars out of China, right now, you either have to have a Chinese friend who you trust a lot, who you can basically give them your money and get them to transfer it for you. And there's a limit. There's a certain amount of money per day, I believe, that they can change into US dollars. And there's definitely a limit. You can't like just unlimited every day go and change. There's a certain amount each month or each year that they're allowed to change. And if you can do it that way, that's fine. You can do international money transfers from your bank, but it's really difficult and it requires a lot of paperwork. So you need to prove your salary and your pay slips and your this and your that, and there's a whole big thing. But, that being said, saving money here in China is a lot easier than probably everywhere else in the world, to be honest. And that's just because of the way China works. Cost of living is low. Well, it can be incredibly high, but just, on average, it's low. Your salary that you earn, you can end up saving about, 50% of it every month, even more if you're careful. In fact, at some point, I was saving something like 90% of my salary every month. Anyway, a couple more questions here. Someone wanted to know, can he still study Chinese and come work for a finance company? Absolutely. I don't see why not. There's a weird situation, which I'll talk about later, going on here when it comes to qualifications and stuff like that. Someone, Svanvir asks, is 1 million RMB a year a good salary for Shenzhen? Yes, it's a very good salary. It's a good salary for anywhere. What banks can Americans still open a bank account on the mainland? Okay, this is a good question. You can open a bank account anywhere, but it has become more difficult. But at the same time, it just depends on the luck of the draw. I've got a subscriber who sent me a message yesterday, and he walked into a bank of, I think it was a construction bank, and he tried to open an account, and they said, sorry, you need your temporary residence permit, which is something you're going to get anyway if you're here. So don't worry. It's not like you don't need to feel intimidated by that. It's just something you'll get anyway. Said you need that, you need your passport, and you need like a payslip or some other nonsense. And he didn't have it. And he went to another branch just down the road to open an account, and the manager was there or something. He said, okay, sure. And he opened the account just with his passport. So it's luck of the draw. And then you can link that, obviously. Let's see, next one. Love your channel, watch all your videos. Oh, thank you very much. Northern Lights. I appreciate that a lot. Next. Okay, let's see. Have I seen Farmlands? Yes, I've seen Farmlands, most of it. I didn't finish it, but I did see most of it. And I agree with it. I think that there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's factual. There are a couple of things that I would have done differently if I were to do the documentary. And I really do wish that she had interviewed a little bit more than just the farmers, although it's called Farmlands, of course, just to get different perspectives of other demographics in South Africa. But yes, I agree that the Farmlands is a good documentary, and it's factual. You can watch it, and what's being said in there is true. And a lot wasn't said as well. But I hope in the future I'll be able to talk more about that. Okay, UK students can go to China for up to a year to study at Chinese universities in China for free. Really? I've never heard of that. That sounds like a bunch of bollocks to me. Thank you for In the Name of Beer. I actually wanted to talk about universities a little bit here in China. Okay, but before I do, Stingray 427, man, what upcoming foreign trips do you have planned? Will you be headed back to the US? I love the US. Any opportunity that I get to travel to the US, I will take. My Corvette's still there in Arizona with my friend. And I basically have dreams. I wake up nightmares in the middle of the night, and I wake up and I really thought I was driving my Corvette, but now I'm not. So it turned from a beautiful dream into a living nightmare. It's difficult, for me to travel is, first of all, my wife doesn't get a lot of time off, and it takes her like a year of working really hard to get sort of 10 days off so we can do something like we just did in Japan. So to go anywhere means I have to leave my wife behind, which is very difficult. And of course, there are all sorts of other reasons why it's not practical for me to just travel, but I'm planning Taiwan soon. C-Milk and I are going to do a whole series in Taiwan, probably sort of late August, something like that. And I am planning on coming to the US again soon as soon as I can arrange the perfect sort of balance, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And of course, C-Milk and I are going to be doing India at some point soon too. Really looking forward to that. Now, sorry, I wanted to talk about universities in China for a bit, if you guys don't mind. Any objections to that? Let's see. People are saying I should moderate. I don't know how to do that. You're gonna have to bear with me. I don't live stream. This is the fourth live stream I've ever done. So the technology, although of course I understand it. I don't have experience using it because previously I was using my phone, and now I'm using the laptop. So you'll have to bear with me a little bit here. Let's talk about universities for a little bit. Okay, and there's a reason why I want to talk about universities is kind of in the news a short while ago. Let's see. In the news a short while ago, there's a bit of a protest going on in, where the hell is it? Probably Wuxi or something, somewhere in China. Please forgive me, I don't know where it is. But a whole bunch of Chinese students were kicked out of the dorms that they were living in order to make way for foreign students. And it caused riots, and it wasn't very, pleasant. Of course, they were not very happy, and they felt discriminated against, and all this kind of stuff. So I wanted to actually talk about that a little bit because it's good to know, and it's interesting. It's an interesting topic. This stuff is seriously good, and this aluminium thing keeps it nice and cold. Basically, I did a language course in the Shenzhen University back in 2008, and I remember, quite vividly. It was actually pretty. It was pretty expensive, I believe, and I don't want to make this incorrect. I don't want to say the incorrect amount, but it was something around 8,000 RMB for the basic tuition, and then on top of that, you had to pay another 1,000 for your textbooks and stuff. And this is without staying in the dormitories there. So we're talking around about 10,000 RMB probably at the end of the day, once you've taken care of all the little bits and bobs and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what that is in US dollars in a second. Give me a second here. I'm terrible at math, just because I live in China doesn't mean my math is good. Pretend I didn't say that. Yeah, it's about 1,500 US dollars for 6 months. You know, it's not cheap for just a language course. And 1 second. So basically, when you actually go for a language course or any kind of course in the university here as a foreigner, there's like a special division of the university that deals specifically with foreigners, and foreigners get charged a lot. But the local people, when they go to the university, it's quite cheap. They would be paying more along the lines of 2,500 RMB, which, give me a second here. And I know this because of course, I spoke to them. I spoke to the Chinese people that I was going to university with. So they're paying about $380 and we're paying about $1,500 for, you know, the same amount of time. Obviously a different course because we were just doing a language course. And, you know, because there's a huge pay disparity, I think that's probably why the university decided to move the foreigners into the slightly nicer dormitories. But this is a mistake that the university made because, you know, obviously that's going to make people really, really upset. Studying in a university in China it's an interesting thing. Like I can talk a lot about it because I've had some experience, but we can talk about that a little later. Let's see what the other questions are here. Can you use 2 years of pre-university experience to get a work permit? No, you can't, I'm afraid to say. You see, work permits in China have become just stupidly difficult to get, just absolutely ridiculous. And they've made a huge mistake. And I think they're going to have to like really address this problem very soon because they've made it so difficult to get, let's see. Thank you so much. Sorry to Randall. That I really appreciate that. And yes, the vet won't rust in Arizona. That's why it's there. Moving to Shenzhen in October. There's not much info on the area in terms of real-life living situations. Well, Stephanie, the majority of my videos are shot in Shenzhen, so I think there's actually quite a lot of information when it comes to real-life living situations. Just watch my videos. I suppose it has been quite a while since I've done anything about apartments and stuff, but there is a reason for that. You know, I can't afford to let people know where I live anymore because of all the haters and the sort of assassination plots and stuff. You know, so that's why I haven't done a new sort of apartment tour type thing. But I can tell you that Shenzhen is one of the better cities in China to live in. It's one of the greener, nicer ones. And I can tell you that rent here is not cheap if you want to live in the nice areas. And we're talking, you're going to be paying probably about 1,300, 1,500 US dollars a month for rent in a decent area. You can pay as little as sort of 500 to 600 US dollars if you want to move out of the city center a month. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Wow, beer money. Thank you, Eric. I'll buy a bunch more of these. Hey, how's it going? Where's this? Okay, sorry. I was talking about something and I've lost my train of thought. What the heck was I talking about? I was talking about, let's see. Oh, yes, I was talking about the whole sort of job visa, work visa thing. It's become ridiculous because I guess China is doing this whole, it's difficult to explain, but I'm going to try my best anyway. That's why it's raw talk, right? It's not like, I'm not here to blow sunshine up anyone's ass here. I'm here to tell the truth about China. And China's been closing down for a while. It's been closing up to the outside world. And it's all about the economy slowing down, because it has been. I'm not going to say it's been like slowing down huge amounts, because you still see growth and prosperity all over China all day, every day. I hear it all day, every day with all the construction. But it is slowing down. And all these sort of talk of trade wars and things like this has got China looking inwards rather than outwards. And so they're making a push to try and prove that they're better than everyone else. And at the same time, I feel that there's a lot of this this sort of feeling that if you want to come and work and live in China, you have to be the best. You have to be like a bloody scientist or a top-notch expert in your field before you can find yourself a good job type thing. But it's having the opposite effect. Because what's happening is, previously, if you were a gap year student, you just sort of finished university and you want to go somewhere, explore the world, you could come to China, and because you've got your bachelor's degree from university, you could get a work visa, and you could work here for a year or whatever and save some money and then move on and do what you want to do. Because let's face it, there are not that many people like me who are willing to put in the time, like 12 freaking years of time, like I have. There are not that many people who are going to come to China and say, I want to be here for the rest of my life, or I want to be here long term. Most people, it's just kind of like a fun little diversion in their sort of career or their, the process of growing up. But then they started with this whole, like, you have to be a bloody rocket scientist to get a visa, work permit. And it's stupid, because the kind of people that would be coming here normally, those gap year students, people who want a little adventure, it's hard for them now. I'm not saying it's impossible, because schools will find a way, because they're pretty desperate. And training centers, if you want to be an English teacher, they will find a way. And that's my advice to you, is you speak to the school. Let them deal with it. Let them figure out all the bureaucracy and all the bullshit to get you a visa to come here. Let them take care of that nonsense. But at the same time, you also have to be cautious. I'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, they've started this. And what it's done is it's dissuaded the people that would have come here and done it legally. And instead, what you're doing is you're getting all the illegals doing it instead. Because now, let's say, Joe Smith with his bachelor's degree wanting to do his gap year, he applies and they say, sorry, you're a class C foreigner, you don't meet the requirements because you don't have a high level of Chinese and you don't have 2 years working experience and you don't have X, Y, Z. Piss off. He's like, what a pity. Guess I just have to go to Korea or Japan or Thailand or somewhere that actually wants me to be there. And then what you'll do is you'll get sort of somebody from Eastern Europe who can't speak English. And I'm not trying to put Eastern Europeans down, by the way, but like somebody who doesn't have qualifications, someone who's got no degree, someone who does not speak English, someone who basically has no business teaching English to anyone, because he turns up in school and he's like, hello, children, he'll go and he'll get the job, because the kindergartens, the training centers, the schools are so desperate for foreigners, because that's how they sell their school, is because they've got a foreigner there, right? That they will hire anyone. So now the actual quality of foreigners coming in to work in China is less, because China's trying to make it better. You know what I mean? It's completely ridiculous. It's having the complete opposite effect. So now most of the foreigners that I know that teach English now are illegal rather than legal. So, I mean, to come and work here illegally is obviously the way to go, I guess. Don't quote me on that. Obviously you got to do it the right way, and there will be a way. And I do think China's going to have to change this around, because the demand is still there, and it's just all about, I guess, real life and policies just not meeting up. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's move on from that topic. Wow, some Brazilian money from Luciano. I recognize you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And from Rachel, some more beer money. Thank you very much. This is awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it a lot. Your support is what keeps me going, because I tell you what, it's a challenge, man. Living in China and dealing with all the interesting things and the instability of life here is challenging, and it's made so much easier knowing that there are people out there that watch my videos and appreciate what I do. It gives me all the motivation in the world. So you guys are definitely your number one. Okay, let's see. What else can we see here? Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Does the beer taste good in China? I did speak about this already. This one tastes fantastic. In fact, let's see what's inside, because it's got this little drawstring. Let's see what's inside this. Come on. So it's not going to look that mystical when I'm done with it. Ta-da! That's kind of cool. Yeah. Nice. Now it just looks like I'm drinking an oxygen cylinder or something. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Someone is asking, any whiskey in China? Yes, there is, but you have to watch out for fake whiskey. Wow, okay. Thank you very much. Next time I'm in LA, I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely, you know, look you up. Okay, Basti Bojek, I hope I said that right. Please say hello to my sons, Tsukomo and Jutaro. Okay, hello, Tsukomo and Jutaro. How are you doing? はじめまして。私の名前はウィンストンです。どうぞよろしくお願いします。Cheers. What else do we have here? Someone's like, hey, am I going to go to Australia? I'd love to go to Australia. I've got family in Perth, an aunt and well, she didn't really marry the guy, but I consider him my uncle. I got a very crazy family, and I think, yeah, on my father's side, most of the family's kind of a bit out there, a bit weird. I don't think there's a single one that I could class as normal. You know, like we're talking strange. Maybe I'll get on that one day. Hey there, how's it going there, Skyline Weeds? How you doing? Thanks. For buy, Joe? I'll buy it and you can have it next time you're here. Okay, cool. What else we got going on here? Someone asked, are there any relatively safe places in South Africa to visit? I'd say, yeah, sure, of course, Cape Town. Cape Town is still the safest place in South Africa. And it's what we call the last deck of the Titanic, you know, because it's, as the Titanic sinks, it's still the safest place. There's a lot of tourism there. So because there's a lot of tourism and money coming in from tourism, it's in the government's interest to keep it safer. So there's a lot more police presence and stuff in Cape Town. Still not safe. You know, holiday makers get raped and murdered and stuff quite often there. You can look it up. I mean, obviously they try to suppress that as much as possible, but it happens. Don't walk around at night by yourself. Don't walk around at night at all, actually, to be honest, in South Africa. It's not a good idea. Just be aware of your surroundings. And if you want to be safe, just, you know, hang out with a local, because the locals know all the tricks and they know how to kind of stay out of the crap. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Jamias. Is that how you say it? I'm very happy that I've been able to show everybody China, you know. I do understand that a lot of the viewpoints I have, maybe people don't agree with them because, you know, it's coming from my perspective, and of course I have a different, you know, I just have a different perspective on things because of where I came from and stuff. But I do try my best to give you guys the most sort of accurate picture of what's going on in China as possible. And that's why I like to go out and shoot on the street, so you can see for yourself, you can make up your own mind. You know what I mean? Let's see, what's next? Thanks, by the way, guys. I'm trying my best. There's a lot of comments here. I'm just taking a look. Someone said they were in SA 20 years ago, and, you know, has it changed a lot? Yes, of course it's changed a lot. You won't recognize it. Okay, more beer. Are you streaming from China? Yes, I'm streaming from China through a VPN. That's why it's not perfect. I did say in the beginning that this beer costs about 100 RMB, 15 US dollars for one, but that's because it's the best that Qingdao make. Okay, awesome. All right, let's see. Next question. Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer Robinson. I appreciate that. Oh, microphone money. Yes, I did explain that in the beginning of the video. I've got one of those MacBook Pros. You know, I bought it. I saved up. It's super bloody expensive because I do all my editing in 4K, and I was struggling. So I thought I'll just buy the new MacBook Pro. You know, that Touch Bar one. It's not that new. I bought it almost 2 years now, I think. And it's frustrating because you can't plug a microphone into it. It's got a microphone port thing, but it's small. It's smaller than a normal 3.5 millimeter jack, which I only found out tonight, so I apologize. I know the audio is bad. I apologize for that. Okay, let's see. Oh, guys, before I continue, let's see. Nice. Somebody said they went to one of those underground rock places in Tokyo. That's freaking awesome. I want to introduce you guys to someone. I know this is totally off topic, but you got to check this out, right? You've got to see this. Okay, let's see if I can get this thing to work. Give me a second. This took me ages to figure out how to get it to work, by the way. Okay. Look at this little guy. Give it a second. Give it a second. Okay. See if it's going to work or not. Give me a second. Konbanwa? Genki desu ka? Hirobo? You just asked me if I like my girlfriend. 本当に恋人が好きよ。Yeah, anyway. Kirobo, 見て見て。Say hi. Say hello. Okay, I gotta tell you, this is the coolest thing. Kirobo. おやすみなさい。おやすみなさい。Cool. So I'll tell you about this guy in a second. When I was in Japan, I came across this little guy, and I really just had to have one. I love robots. I love gadgets, and it's actually really difficult to get him to work. And he basically speaks Japanese only. Can only work if you have, or can only work in Japan. Can't work anywhere else. That's why I've had to do some trickery with the app, because he connects to like a Toyota database, and what he does is he has conversations with you and he remembers stuff. He's super cool. I really like it. I think it's probably the coolest gadget in the world. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas. Apologize. Anyway, I've been trying to think of a way for me to factor Kirobo into my videos, and it's kind of difficult because I was walking around with him in public 2 days ago, and the security guard at the sort of complex that I was working, the complex that I live at, he was like, "What the hell is that?" in Chinese, and I said, "Oh, it's a robot from Japan." He was like, "Really?" So he was like, But what does it do? And it recognized what he was saying, and it turned around to him, and it was like waving at him, and he almost fell off his chair because the security guards usually sit around him. But it was really, really funny. But he was surprised, just surprised that it couldn't speak Chinese. Thank you very much, King Jahan. Appreciate that. Okay, explain canned Mongolian air. Okay, that's a good one. Give me a second. I've got one around here somewhere. Where is it? I put it aside specifically for this. Give me 1 second. Where did I put that bloody canned air? I've got canned air here. It's a real thing. I wonder if Sasha put it somewhere. Bear with me. I'll be right back. There it is. Ta-da! Found it. Okay. Here we go. What I have here is I have canned air. Literally, it's air in a can. And yeah. I was in Beijing, and I went to I basically went to a restaurant, and I sat down there. Yeah, this stuff is just really stupid. And they give you a can of air, I guess it's more of a gimmick than anything else, but you have to understand that the air quality in Beijing is shit, okay? Don't ever listen to anyone who tells you that Beijing has good air, because it's rubbish. The expats get really annoyed with me, like the expats that live there. Like, they get pissed off because every time I go to Beijing, the air quality is absolutely shit. It's terrible, right? And I'll come and make a video and say, like, the air quality is crap. And then they're like, you're just biased. You just hate Beijing. We get blue skies, all the time here. And yeah, they do get blue skies. Occasionally, yeah. And sometimes for like 2 weeks, you'll have blue skies, which is great. But what they're not telling you is that it's not all the bloody time. It's kind of like if you have a car and it breaks down all the time and it just doesn't start. So it won't start for like a month. And then like your friend comes over and asks, hey, can we go for a drive down to the shopping mall? And you're like, sorry, my car's broken. And then like as soon as they leave, the car starts up fine and works for 2 weeks. So what? It's still a shit car, right? If it can't work all the time. It's kind of like the air in Beijing. The air in Beijing is shit most of the time. And, occasionally it's good. So anyway, this is kind of like a bit of a joke, but, they give you this fresh air that's canned in Inner Mongolia. I haven't opened it yet. It's still closed. But it's stupid. It's air. What are you supposed to do? You can't drink it. If you open it, it just disappears. So it's just a funny gimmick. But they sell it, and people buy it. And I don't know why, because, it's not going to improve your health or anything. Anyway, that's what that's all about. Let's see. Should I master's in China or UK? My Chinese girlfriend will graduate a year before me and go back to China. Okay, that's a tough one. She obviously doesn't love you enough to stay in the UK, that's for sure. Just kidding. Look, gaming in China is massive. I think that if you could figure things out and get your way into Tencent, because Tencent down here in Shenzhen, actually, and I used to work for them. I worked for them for about 5 years. They are always looking for good foreign talent. So if you could get into Tencent, I think it would be great, because China has the biggest sort of online gaming client base in the world, because everybody does it. It's crazy. China has this very interesting way of approaching gaming and that sort of thing. And it's mainly mobile based, because everybody in China has a smartphone. And even the cheapest Chinese smartphones are still very powerful. You'll get like a Xiaomi that costs like $100 or something, and that thing will have like an 8-core CPU and have like everything it needs to run games. So you've got mobile versions of Fortnite and PUBG and all that kind of stuff. And you see people and like LOL and all that, and Tencent licenses them and localizes them, and they make their own games too, obviously. And everyone plays them. If you go on the bus or the metro or anywhere, you'll see people on their phones playing games. So, games are huge over here in China, and so I think it's a good market to get into. And also, it's an easier market. I've spoken to some other, um, I've spoken to some other like programmers that I met working at Tencent and stuff, and they were saying that they would never have been given the opportunity to program the kind of things they do or the work that they have overseas because the market's too saturated. But here, because they're foreigners, it's easier for them to get good work. So it might be a good idea. And I even remember last time I was in Tencent headquarters, which was a long time ago. The hell's the guy's name who did Battlefield 4? They had the guys who were like behind Battlefield 4 or something. They were having a meeting with them in the next room. And I remember because my friend was saying, hey, those guys are the guys who made Battlefield 4. And I was like, well, that's kind of nice. Remember, Tencent is massive. They are the guys who own WeChat and QQ and all that kind of crap. And they license World of Warcraft and LOL and all that stuff. So, think about it. Gaming's got a very bright future in China because gaming is the new opium of China. Yeah, anyway. Could I live stream walking around? No. The problem is the VPNs are so unstable, and they're very aggressive at blocking VPNs on mobile networks, especially. Like Wi-Fi, it's not that bad, but mobile networks, it's almost impossible. James is asking, have I considered visiting Eastern US to visit CMilk? Yeah, I did that, I don't know if you saw, but I did actually drive my Corvette in 2016 from the West Coast to the East Coast, where I went to CMilk's house and we hung out with Sasha and Vivian, all of them, and then I drove back to the West Coast again. But yeah, absolutely. Like I said a little earlier, any chance that I get to go to America or the USA, or whatever you want to call it, the place where my Corvette is, I will do because I love it there. I think it's one of the most amazing countries in the world. Everyone is so friendly, the food is amazing and cheap, and the scenery is outstanding. It's so diverse and so incredible. I absolutely love it there, All right, guys, let's get someone's again. Can you teach in China with a fake degree? I know a lot of people who do. Like I said, raw talk. But I do know that it's now becoming almost impossible to do so. Like I said, the recent sort of push to make it harder to get visas is real, and they're implementing a lot of new laws. So, you have to kind of get your degree certified in the Chinese consulate in your own country now. That's one of the new rules. But I know it doesn't apply everywhere. It depends. Like if you go to a shit city in China, like a real backwards place, there's always a way to make things work. That's something I know about China for sure. So if you have a fake degree, and don't say that I ever said that you should try and work on a fake degree, but if you have a fake degree and you make the right contacts in the right place, I'm pretty sure you can pull it off. I'm not saying you should though, but it's possible. But don't try to do that in Shanghai or Beijing or Shenzhen or Guangzhou because that won't work. Not at all. What do I think of the 80s? Best decade ever. Let's see. Someone was like, hey, I just heard Afrikaners are migrating to Russia. I think that's awesome. I think it's great that there's another country out there who's finally willing to accept people that are in actual need, of refugee status, people that are, really in danger, are actually willing to extend a humanitarian hand to them because it's a difficult situation that white South Africans find themselves in because if you look around the world, And if you look at the countries that do actually extend humanitarian aid, the majority of those countries are white. I mean, I don't see African countries sending aid anywhere, do you? Or Middle Eastern countries sending aid to other places, humanitarian missions and stuff. It doesn't seem to be the case. So it's kind of weird, because when white people are in need of aid, they don't get it simply because it's too weird and it doesn't fit with the sort of narrative of the world at the moment. So they're always overlooked. And it's a sad state of affairs where, because of a person's skin color, they're not considered a victim or a refugee, or they're not considered in any way in need of help, basically. And that's what makes South Africans some of the toughest, hardest working people in the world. And I'm not just talking shit because I am a South African, but if you know anyone who knows South Africans that have made it overseas, you'll find that they're probably the hardest working people you know, and that's because we don't take anything for granted, because we know what a struggle life can actually be. And so it's incredibly important to never jeopardize, to never jeopardize what you have. So work hard because life can get a hell of a lot worse, basically. Someone asked an interesting question there, is what would it take for you to finally decide to leave China? It's been something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm sure all of you know by now, most of the long-term expats that have been in China, people that I've known, have all left. It's become a lot more, well, I'm just going to put it this way. It's changed. Times have changed here. And it's not the same country it was when I first got here. And for most people, that's too difficult to deal with, and so they had to leave. Also, you reach a point when you've lived in a place long enough where you start to see the flaws in the place. Because, every country you move to, every place you go to, you have a honeymoon period where you see the different interesting things and the good things. And that honeymoon period can last quite a long time. I mean, it lasted about 5 years for me in China. It was 5 years before I even started to consider the things that really were grating me or causing me discomfort. And it gets to a point where you finally say, you know what, you've got to weigh up the bad and the good and see if the good is more than the bad, then you stay. But if, basically if the bad is far outweighing the good, you've got to move. And for me, the worst thing about China is, never mind the xenophobia and all the, you will never be a Chinese person, you'll always be the foreigner, it doesn't matter how long you've been here. Never mind all that stuff. I can deal with that. I've been a minority my entire life, right? I'm used to being the odd guy out. It's the instability. That's the biggest thing for me, is that there is no stability here in China, because your visa, every 2 years on a marriage visa, every 1 year on a work visa, if you have what do you call it, a tourist visa, that tourist visa, by the way, it says it's a 10-year tourist visa, but it's not actually a 10-year tourist visa. It just means within a 10-year span, you're allowed to come in and out, but you can only stay for like a month at a time, and you have to go out every month to kind of refresh it. So a lot of people that work illegally do that. They pop to Hong Kong and they pop back in. It's the visas, man. Sorry, this guy is asking about casinos. I just got to remember that. I'll get to you. So basically, there is this thing called a green card, but all it is really a 10-year residence permit, which can be taken away at any time, by the way. It's not stable. There's a lot of wording in there that says that if you disrupt the social harmony of China, or if you do this or that, then it can be canceled straight away. So you don't actually have any rights. It's kind of like a long-term visitor's visa. And if you disrupt the social harmony, which can mean anything, like you can wear the wrong T-shirt and people get annoyed with you, they can cancel it. So there's no real stability here. And me on my 2-year spousal visa every time, which I've just renewed, by the way. So all the campaigning to get me reported as a spy and all this other bullshit didn't work, obviously, because if they get rid of you, they won't get rid of you by just like deporting you unless you break the law, obviously. If you do something really bad, you'll get deported. But usually the way they deal with that is if they want to get rid of you, they just don't renew your next visa because it's much easier that way. Then there's no sort of political incidents or anything like that. It's just like, oh, sorry, you didn't meet the requirements, piss off. But luckily for me, it got renewed. But the thing is, every 2 years I got to worry about, like, am I going to get a visa? Are they going to change the rules? What's going on? So it's the lack of stability is the biggest factor working against me staying in China long term. But I'm going to ride it out as much as possible. As far as gambling in China, it's completely illegal. And it's illegal for a reason, man. Like, gambling is in the blood here. Everybody loves to gamble. They just bust a $1 billion gambling ring surrounding the World Cup. And people have been committing suicide, man, like because they've been betting all their like family's money and stuff on the World Cup. And not just like one or two people, lots of people. I've been hearing it from friends. I've been hearing it from, my wife's family. Some people in her family, stuff like that, have committed suicide because they lost huge on the World Cup. Like, I mean, huge, huge, huge. So it's all it's basically part of the genetics here is gambling. Let's see. Sorry, I'll get back to you. Yeah. So it's completely illegal, but you can go to Macau, which is part of China again now. It's a former Portuguese colony. You can go there, and there are legal gambling casinos there. It's a small place, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, do you think Seamilk is still in the honeymoon period with Japan? Yeah, he's only been there once, so yeah, I reckon so. Let's see. With China becoming more xenophobic, white racism against whites is a free pitch in South Africa. Do you have a plan B country? It's such a tough question, man. Basically, I am in a situation where if the shit hits the fan, I've got nowhere to go. I'm not going back to South Africa. I refuse. I absolutely refuse, because although it's the country I was born in and it is my country, my passport is South African, I've never been welcome there. I've never felt welcome there, and I've never ever felt like it was really my country. So absolutely not. I would probably go over to Hong Kong if shit hit the fan here, and from Hong Kong fly to somewhere like Thailand or someplace like that and just try to figure things out from there. So, there are a couple of plan Bs and plan Cs about where I could go, et cetera, but I'm working on things, let's put it that way. Dennis, thank you. Yes, I re-upped my spousal visa. I'm, it's a huge weight off my shoulders because, not knowing whether you're going to get your next visa has always been very stressful. It's been the most stressful thing about living in China is the fact that every year, this is only the second spousal visa renewal I've had, because before that it was always a work visa, right? A yearly work visa. And they were always changing the rules, It was so bloody annoying. Every year they would expect you to produce different documents, and suddenly they'd say, oh, you need a criminal record check this year. And you're like, well, you didn't need that last year. And they're like, well, that's on your rule. And then you have to go figure it out. And it's freaking annoying, let's put it that way. Anyway, it is what it is. I got my new one, so I'm here to stay for a little while longer. Someone asked, am I still doing the Saturday morning meetups in Shenzhen? Yes, I do. When people contact me and ask me if I have time to meet, it's always on Saturday mornings. Yeah. Let's see. Do you think there will be internet available in China sometime in the future? Internet available? Well, there is internet available, but it's very limited. It's a tough thing to really say. In China, the internet is incredibly censored, and there's a lot of reasons for this. And it's kind of understandable if you live here, even though it's totally unfair and it sucks, especially if you used to using the internet. It's about 80% is blocked, I would say. and the rest is, I hear someone coming home. Hey, babe. Can you come say hello? You're too messy? Okay, never mind. Okay, well, Sasha's just come home, but she's too messy to come say hi, apparently. The thing is, it's quite a clever thing what they do with the internet here. It's blocked, most of it, but it's blocked because, first of all, for financial reasons. If Google makes a really cool product that they see is very successful, then a local Chinese company like Baidu or Tencent will make a copy of that product and release it to the Chinese population, and then they will use that because they don't have a choice. They can't use the Google one, and they can't use the whatever other one. So that way, it stimulates local economy, you see, and it makes the local companies earn a lot of money, which they wouldn't have done if Google or Microsoft or something could have done it instead. And the second reason is just to kind of keep people in the dark about political upheaval or like bad news. They don't want people to know about bad news because people are a lot happier when they don't know bad things are happening. Basically, I guess that's the nicest way to say it. Cool. What's next? Hey guys, nice, thanks. Thanks. All right, let's have another question, guys. Do I ever censor myself? Yeah, I do. Obviously, I have to. You can't be stupid about things. You have to be. You know, there are risks that you should take, and there are risks that are just stupid to take. And so, certain opinions that I have about certain things, obviously, I can't say because I live here and my wife is Chinese and so on and so forth. So, I have to walk this balanced line. But you have to also understand that at the end of the day, I really do love China. And I know maybe it doesn't come across in some of my videos, but China is very misunderstood. And it's one of the reasons I started to make my videos is because you hear a lot of bad news about China, and deservedly so. There's a lot of crap going on here, which is terrible, absolutely awful. But at the same time, there's also a lot of good. And Chinese people in general are actually really nice people. And, absolutely, I've met some fantastic people here. And I've had such a good time in the 12 years that I've been here. And so many adventures. And that's because, you know, there's a certain quality to Chinese people in general, certain kind of warmth and hospitality that it's difficult to find elsewhere. Unfortunately, that gets kind of knocked out of them when it comes to like an emergency situation. And compassion, it's you can see that the compassion is supposed to be there, but it's just kind of smacked right out of them because they know that they're just going to have their lives destroyed if they step in to help someone and things like that. It's really a sad state of affairs. But at the end of the day, China is still a fascinating place with a lot of interesting people and a lot of interesting things going on. And that's why I started these videos. And I'm not out to lie, and I never will lie about anything. I'm not out to expose all the shit things in China, because if I wanted to do that, there's a lot I could do. There's a lot of shit things I could talk about. I've seen some awful things here. But at the same time, I'm not here to praise China and trump it up and say that it's the most amazing place in the world and stuff like that, because that's not my personality. I want to be real. And that's why I'm in the middle. I want to share my experiences, the interesting things that happened to me, and also the shit things that happened to me, without having to go into the nitty-gritty of politics and try to expose dirty laundry and things like that, but at the same time not trying to candy coat things and just talk a bunch of bullshit like some vloggers do when they come here, because they're like, oh, it's so amazing, it's so wonderful, let me wear a bikini and run around. It's not me. Anyway, let's see what's next. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that. Am I tempted to sport a Beijing bikini? No, absolutely not. Someone asked, are you wearing pants right now? Yes. Yes, I'm wearing pants. That's not, I don't do that kind of thing. I know I could just be sitting here in my underwear, but that would be weird. Mm. Mm. Right. Someone's like, honest question, how do you justify yourself effectively promoting a country with such terrible human rights abuses? I'll tell you why. Because the people on the street here are not responsible for those human rights abuses. The people that I meet, the people I interact with, not a single one of them is responsible for that shit. It's just like growing up in South Africa and the Western media saying that all white people are racist assholes, you know? It's like, take a fucking hike. Sorry for the language, but when you grow up with the entire world trying to say that you're a bad man, when you're not, you're just a normal everyday person trying to live their life, trying to survive, trying to have a family, you know? It's bullshit. And that's why I can make these videos, is because I know that I am not misrepresenting China. I'm showing the real China. I'm not misrepresenting the people here. The people here on the street, the people that I interact with, the people that I've worked with, sure, a lot of them have their flaws, a lot of them have their problems, but not a single one of those people are responsible for human rights violations. That's, that's the government. That's their bullshit. And that's something that the people here have no control over. And that's something you have to understand. People in China cannot change the government as much as they want to. If they try to change the government, they disappear, you know? And it's the same as like when I was growing up in South Africa. What the hell can a 2-year-old do about apartheid, right? Nothing. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to learn how to breathe and walk, never mind anything else. And yet you've got the entire media saying that I'm an evil racist just because I'm a 2-year-old trying to figure out how to crawl, you know? And that's why I can make videos about China. Hope that answered your question. Let's see what else. Someone was like, how do you like your interaction with Tokyo Sam? It was fun, man. He's a fun guy. He's a great guy to hang out with. I had a great time, you know. Let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, someone's asking, why did you decide to go to China? I already actually spoke about that earlier, but the gist of it is that, sorry, I was looking for an adventure, and it's very difficult for me to go anywhere in the world with my shit passport. So if I'm going to go somewhere, may as well be somewhere interesting, right? Okay, I plan to go through your city on business for a 2 to 7 day stay. What papers do I need beside a passport? Yeah, a tourist visa will be fine. But you need to make sure you get a multiple entry tourist visa, because most tourist visas are only single entry. And if you go in, like if you come from Hong Kong into Shenzhen, and then you go back out to Hong Kong, you can't come back in. You have to apply for a new visa. And that bit me really hard right in the beginning when I didn't know that. I went out to Hong Kong for a day and I couldn't get back in. Okay, thanks. I'll check out that thing about Japan. That sounds awesome. Thank you. Who does the music for my videos? A guy is, he lives in New Zealand. He calls himself Virtual Vice. I always link in the description, but he set up a web page, and he didn't tell me that the web page expired. So I've been linking his expired web page for the past like 5 or 6 videos. But if you go a little further back, he's got a Bandcamp page. Awesome guy, does fantastic work. Hey, how's it going there? 42 Fab. Thank you very much, man. I'm very much looking forward to coming, you know, swinging by Oklahoma again and seeing you, man. Like it's on my bucket list of things to do. Well, at least things to do in the next while. Hopefully sooner than later. Looking forward to seeing you and Jess again, man. It was so much fun last time. I really enjoyed it. One of the highlights of my trip. Sorry about the reverb and the weird audio. I apologize for that. I did try to set up a better system, and next time I promise I will. Someone asked me, like, what do I think about Walter Maya? Kind of mixed. Uh, I think he's a nice guy. I've spoken to him before, and it's nice to talk to him sometimes. But I don't really like his content because it's just only focusing on being black. So I mean, it's a bit much if every single video is like being black and drinking tea in China, being black and putting on your socks in China, being black and taking a shower in China, being black and breathing air in China. It just gets a bit much. I get it, but at the same time, it's very one-dimensional. And, I could make videos about being African too. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. What else have we got here? Am I allowed to live and work in the UK? No, absolutely not. I need to get a visa, even if I want to go on for a tourist visa. I need to apply for a visa. And I did explain it earlier, but even though my mother has a British passport, I was born in South Africa. My mother is second generation, so I can't get a UK visa unless I go through a very long ancestral visa process, which takes 7 years. And it means I have to go and live and work in the UK for the whole process is about 7 years, and then I can get a UK passport. But it's difficult still a difficult process. There's a lot of paperwork and crap that has to be done, and it's not easy. Digging up grandparents' birth certificates and marriage certificates and authenticating them and all that kind of crap. This is a good question. With China's obsession with money, how big is crypto blockchain over there? Huge, absolutely huge. There are massive crypto mines going on in China, but it's been clamped down on and it's been made illegal in a lot of ways, and basically it's being stamped out as much as possible because obviously it was a vehicle for corrupt officials and people like that to launder money and to kind of get all their money out of China. And so it's kind of been put a stop to. You can't really legally do Bitcoin stuff in China anymore. It's super difficult. So it was a huge thing here. And of course, I think you'd find the most impressive sort of Bitcoin mining farms here in China, but that's it. Yeah. Someone asked, what is it like being a white woman in China? I personally couldn't tell you. But I do have some white women friends who have married Chinese guys and, who've dated Chinese guys and stuff, and it's difficult. A lot of the freedoms that women have in the West and the whole sort of feminist outlook on things doesn't fly over here at all because gender roles are still a big thing in Chinese society. A woman is still kind of expected to have a kid, cook the dinner, do all the sort of things that they would expect, kind of in the 1950s in America type thing. And that doesn't sit well with Western women, And it's, sorry. Anyway, sorry. So it's difficult for them, but at the same time, if you're a white woman in China, you will get a huge amount of attention, like massive. You'll have guys left and right wanting to get to know you and, taking you out, treating you to dinner and stuff all the time. And it can also be very, I don't know how to explain. It can be a terrible experience as well. Like, I knew this one American girl and she had very big breasts, and people would just stare at her and she would have like women coming up on the street and touching her breasts because they were curious, because they were like, what the hell is this? It's like, never seen anything that big before in my life, because, you know, Chinese women don't have big breasts. Except for my friend Naomi, Sexy Cyborg, but those aren't real. You know, but just like naturally big breasts. So it was incredibly uncomfortable for her. She felt very self-conscious and she couldn't handle it. She left. But yeah, as a white woman in China, you get a hell of a lot of attention. Unfortunately, when it comes to relationships, a lot of the time, it's the guys are just looking for a different experience. They're not really looking for long-term because their families are too traditional to allow them to marry a foreigner. Goes the same for white guys as well. But you can have a positive experience here for sure. And I know a couple that are of white women that are married to Chinese guys who are incredibly happy. So someone says, I tried to message you on Twitter and see more patrons having problems. Weird. I don't know. I'll speak to C-Milk about that. I don't know what that's all about. Someone is saying thoughts on Poppy. Yeah, you know, she's weird because I tried to contact her when she first got here to see if she wanted to do a collab, and she just ignored me. She never got back to me. Travelite, the other one, her friend, she got back to me. She was more than willing to do a collab, but unfortunately, both of them have left China. So we never got around to doing that collab. It was about a couple of weeks ago. I sent another message to Jordan to say, hey, can we do a collab? And she's like, sorry, I've already been out of China for a month. I'm not coming back. So, yeah. And Poppy's not coming back either. I would like to say that with both of those channels, it's just honeymoon period stuff. I wouldn't take it too seriously. Like the stuff that they put out there, it's the kind of thing like, oh, look, everything's bright and new, wonderful. It's kind of like anyone who goes to a new country, like I said, you have that honeymoon period. And if you have a honeymoon period, everything is cool, right? You're meeting new friends, you're trying new food, you're seeing new scenery, you're seeing the bright lights of the city, things completely different to what you're used to. And of course, it's all going to be positive stuff, right? Sorry, there's something weird going on with this light. I've got a light set up here, so it's not too dark in here, but it's weird. Anyway, so, you know, I don't fault them for that. I am a bit upset that she's completely ignored me and didn't get back to me, because we've got mutual friends, and I asked them to ask her to contact me and stuff. Never anything. But Jordan or Travelite is obviously a lot more mature, and she did contact me, and she was willing to do a collab. But unfortunately, like I said, they're no longer in China, so they're gone. I guess they couldn't handle living here, and it is difficult to live here as a foreigner. There are a lot of things you have to adjust to, and yeah, so those are my thoughts. What's next? When are you in Hong Kong? My wife and I visit Shenzhen every couple of weeks. Cool. You started going to China because of my videos. That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. You know, like I said, China's underrated. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in China. You know what I mean? Let's see what's next. Let's see. My wife and I moved to Changchun 6 months ago. We're going to Beijing and wonder if you have a food recommendation. Beijing food recommendation. Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, Beijing has some pretty amazing barbecue places. If you go to that street, it's called Guijie, there's tons of restaurants to choose from over there. I'd suggest checking it out. You know, everyone hypes up Beijing duck, you know, Peking duck. To be honest with you, it's not that good in Beijing. It's not that good. I've had better in Shenzhen. I've had better in America. But I guess if you're going to Beijing, you should try it out. You know, there's tons of famous Beijing duck restaurants there. But I always found that the barbecue in Beijing was the good stuff. And you can find all these little barbecue restaurants in the hutongs, especially if you can just walk around the hutongs and try them out. Like some pretty awesome stuff. Like there's a video that C-Milk and I did where we tried these super spicy chicken wings. They're actually called Bian Tai La, which means pervert spicy. Pretty awesome stuff. Let's see. Another dude here. I've learned loads from your videos. Thanks, man. Awesome. You know, look, if you're coming to Shenzhen, it's difficult. I try to meet as many people as possible. So I have this kind of Saturday morning coffee thing that I do, because everyone wants to have a beer with me, and I want to have a beer with everyone, but it gets out of hand, man. Like if I'm getting completely pissed on beer like 3, 4, 5 times a week because I'm meeting people, I just don't get anything done. So that's why I've changed it to kind of a coffee meetup. So if you can get a hold of me and I can add you on WeChat, that's the best way for us to talk. Honest Ash, you've been following my channel for a while. What's your advice for someone starting YouTube in 2018? I'll tell you what you do, man. If you want to start a YouTube channel, is basically be consistent, choose what it is you want to talk about, and make sure it's something that you enjoy. Don't do something because it's popular. Don't go out there and say, oh, look, people are doing vlogs. Vlogs is popular. I'm going to do a vlog. Or people are doing gaming videos. Let me go out and do gaming videos. That's bullshit. That's a big mistake people make. What you need to do is you need to find out something that you're passionate about. That's how these channels do really well. Like, you can go out there and you can find videos about cars, right? I like to watch car channels because I love cars and mechanics. And you can see there are like thousands of different car channels out there. But the ones that I enjoy are the ones where the guy's personality is quirky, or you really get along with that guy's personality. That's why it's called YouTube. It's not called corporate tube. Go and find someone you like and you watch them. So it's about your personality. And if you're going to be talking about something you like, people will pick up on that and then they're going to follow you. So choose something you really like. Okay, someone, the SMG73. What do you think of San Francisco? I loved San Francisco. I loved it so much. When C-Milk and I were there, we were like just kind of a fantasy mode. We were looking up real estate prices and stuff and found out it's so bloody expensive that it's just never, ever possible to live there. But San Francisco is an amazing place. I love the hills. I love the food. I love the restaurants. I love the people. The only thing that was really weird was I saw a lot of mentally disabled people, like either I don't know if they're on drugs or if they're just whatever, but like people screaming, lying around screaming and stuff. It was an awesome experience. One of the highlights of our last trip, we did that West Coast Quest for the Best Chinese thing. It was definitely one of the highlights. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. I really guys. The reason why I've continued for so long and the reason why I make these videos is honestly because of the feedback I get from you guys, be it comments or views or whatever it is. Just by watching my videos, you can guarantee that I will continue to make them. It's that simple. Because, man, I was doing YouTube for 5 years before I earned a single cent. Obviously now this is my job, so I rely on it. I rely on making videos in order to, pay the rent and in order to look after my wife and all of that kind of stuff. But for 5 years, it was like a part-time hobby of mine, and I just kept at it because of the feedback, because you guys, that's what kept me going. And so that's the main driving force. That's why I'm not jumping on every advertising person who contacts me, because I've been contacted quite a lot by people who want to put like Audible.com or Dollar Shave Club or whatever bullshit ads in my videos. And of course, a lot of Chinese companies want me to pimp their products. And I just refuse, because that's not why I do YouTube. That's never been my driving force. It's never been money. The fact that I'm making money off of it now is fantastic. It means I get to dedicate more time to it. But at the same time, that's not my driving force. And I don't want that to be my driving force. I don't want my videos to be soulless and a sellout. I want to be making videos for you guys that are as genuine as they can be. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing and doing everything else that you guys do. Michael, yeah, I like that. Okay, would like to hear your view on the farmer murders in South Africa. They're real. I mean, what else can you say? And I will touch on that a little bit, actually. My parents own a farm, and they're not farmers. My dad owns a landscaping company. And what he does is he builds water features, dams, koi ponds, that kind of thing. He's got a lot of corporate clients. He goes and makes the sort of beautiful water features and waterfalls and stuff on their premises. And that's what he does, and he breeds fish. That's his main thing. And he started out, like I've said in my videos, when I was younger, I come from a very sort of lower middle class family because my dad's an entrepreneur. And as we grew up, he had a snake park, he had a zoo, he had all sorts of crap. We never had a lot of money. And so we moved around a lot. And for instance, I grew up in Cape Town. And I don't remember any specific place as being like a solid home because we moved so many times. We moved all over the place. By the time I was 10, we'd probably moved 6 or 7 times. So anyway, in South Africa, Cape Town's kind of like the holiday city. It's got the beaches and it's got the beautiful scenery and all that kind of stuff. And Johannesburg is where the money's made, right? And that's where people go to make money, basically, right? And so that's where we ended up moving when I was 10. We went all the way up to Johannesburg, and my father started his landscaping company. He had a bunch of other things. He tried to figure a way to make low-cost food for the lower income people, like figured out how to make like a really interesting, it's called inyama foods, which in Zulu means meat, inyama, but it was actually a soy-based thing, little packet, kind of like instant noodles, but it was more like an instant meal thing. That didn't work out very well, but just like myself, always trying different things. And eventually he built his landscaping company because he actually used to make these beautiful landscaped cages for his snakes in the snake park, so they had like a natural habitat. And so he used those skills and he built this landscaping company. Anyway, what I was getting at is he spent many years building up his business. And my mother worked as his secretary, basically, right? And they saved as much as they could and, of course, worked really hard and got to a position where they were no longer in a sort of a low middle class situation, where they're actually like upper middle class. And my parents bought a farm to retire on, a game farm, because my father loves the bush, the African bush, and he loves animals. He's, it's very different to me. He's an outdoorsman, I'm an indoorsman, if there's such a thing. And so they bought this game farm, which cost them everything, all of their savings. And they built this farmhouse on there. And they built, whatever else. They built some paddocks for the animals, and they bought a bunch of not wildebeest. What did they get? They got like kudu and eland and all these kind of deer and things like that. And they put them on the farm. There's like leopard on there. There's all these like wild leopard because it's out there. And so they built this amazing farm for themselves to retire on. That was the whole point. So they worked their entire lives, and they finally got to a point where they could buy a farm out in the middle of nowhere. It's not agricultural. It's got nothing to do with producing anything. It's just a game farm. And then all this bullshit about land expropriation without compensation has just come into the sort of thing. And their neighbors, other farmers in the area have been murdered, because that's how it works, is they murder and they torture and they rape and they do all these terrible things out there. And because it's pretty much government sanctioned, and people might try to argue that it's not government sanctioned, but with the rhetoric going on, anyone who's got a low IQ would think that it was government sanctioned. So they'll just go and act anyway and believe that that's the right thing to do. These guys go out there and murder, rape, and kill people. And so it's not safe for my parents to even visit their own farm. And if they do go there, it's a very hairy situation. And of course, my father can't leave my mother there by herself for any period of time. And now they can't sell the farm because the farm's worth nothing, because no one will buy a farm, because at the moment the government's saying they're going to take all the farms away for free. So what's the point? So it's a really kind of a shitty situation. And so the farmer situation in South Africa is dire. And it's affected everyone, and it affects me, it affects my parents. And it's just it's a shitty situation, man. Like, I don't really know how to put it in any other way. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Thank you very much for the fluffy. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. Randy, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. And Tucker Matthew, is it true in the same time in Shenzhen as Western China? Yes, it is. China has one time zone. And sorry, David, yes, I do want to do a motorcycle trip in Europe. It's going to happen one day. China's kind of weird. There's one time zone for the whole country, right? So if it's 8 a.m. in Shenzhen, it's 8 a.m. in Beijing, it's 8 a.m. in Tibet. You know, it doesn't matter where you go in China, it's 8 a.m. And it's weird because, of course, it's a massive country. So the sun might be rising here, but it's kind of midnight on the other side. You know what I mean? But that's just the way it is. And I guess it's just easier for them to, I don't know, easier for them to administrate that kind of thing. It's a bit stupid, but it is what it is. What's next? All right, so I need another question, guys. Hey, thank you, Gabrielle. Hi, guys. Let's see. How about going to Taiwan? Can you get a visa? Getting a visa for Taiwan is really difficult too, you know. But that's not my limiting factor. I have to take into consideration my wife. That's the biggest thing because, you know, the political situation between mainland China and Taiwan makes it very difficult for my wife to get a visa if I were to move there. So it's pretty much off the cards, to be honest. I love Taiwan, by the way. I think it's amazing. I'm looking forward to going there again soon. Someone says, what do you think about Tommy Robinson? I'll tell you what, man, I don't think it's right for anybody to get locked up just for speaking their mind. That's all I'm going to say. Is Churchill Customs dead? Here's the thing with Churchill Customs. I've told you guys about this before in a couple of things, but you know, the village that we basically rented that garage space that you see in our videos from a village. And it was one of those villages that were going to get knocked down sometime in the future, and nobody really knew when. So everyone was building those nail houses with like extra layers, and that's how that garage thing came about, really, is because they needed to build more layers to get more compensation from the government. So the bottom layer was empty because they were living on the second floor. And they built like 5 floors, and of those 5 floors, only 1 floor was ever completed where they lived. And the rent was cheap, man. It was like 120 US dollars a month or something, stupid like that. So totally worth it. But the problem is, one day we get a message and it's like, well, you know, in 2 weeks' time, this whole place is going to be bulldozed down. You got to move out. So we're like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? You know, we've got a shop there. I know we weren't really making any money out of it, but it was still our thing. You know, we go hang out there. We go build bikes. That's where we kind of met every Monday to go ride out to the middle of nowhere. So we kind of had a week or two to get all of our tools out of there. We stored the expensive stuff, and then we just got this guy that we met to come there and just kind of offer us a blanket amount for everything else that was left over, including a bunch of old bikes that were there and a bunch of tools and desks and TV and blah, 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 blah. And I think he offered us like 5,000 RMB for the whole lot, which is like a fraction of what any of that stuff was worth. And we were just like, yeah, okay, whatever, just take it. So we sold most of the stuff. We kept the more expensive tools in a storeroom at Seamilk's old, Seamilk's father-in-law's place. And that was that. So it's kind of on hold until we find a better situation. And of course, Seamilk's in America now, so who knows? Hey, bud, if I wanted to spend some time in China, what's my best avenue work-wise? English teaching. It's like the only thing really that a foreigner can do. Unless you're a scientist or you have some very specific skill. Or if you can find a company that has a branch in China and they need like a manager or something. Thanks, man. When you win the lottery, That's awesome. Yeah, you can buy me that passport. I'd love it. Thank you. Yeah. I tell you what, guys, if there's one thing I plan to do in this lifetime, and I don't know how long it's going to take or if it's ever going to be possible, but I want to be in a position where I can burn my South African passport. I honestly do. That's my life goal, is literally to be able to say, fuck this nationality, burn it, I'm done with it, I never wanted it. That's my goal in life. I know it sounds petty, but that's just, it's about as much as I can appreciate that bloody nationality. See what else is going on. Is traditional Chinese characters discouraged in mainland China? I mean, you can still write traditional Chinese characters. I still see signs, like if you have a kind of a more traditional sort of a restaurant, they'll have traditional Chinese characters on their signs and stuff. It's not like illegal or anything. Obviously, if you're doing anything that's like government, like writing out a government form, it has to be simplified, that kind of crap, you know? Mm. Someone's like, never thought about the UK instead of a new life. Yeah, I've talked about this multiple times on the stream. It's just to get into the UK is very difficult. And that's just the way it is. Like for a South African to immigrate to the UK is incredibly difficult. Like visa, even just to visit, we need a visa. And I am eligible for an ancestry visa, but it takes like years of paperwork and bullshit. And it'll take 7 years for the entire process for me to actually get a British passport. So it's something that's possible, but it's a gargantuan task. It's mammoth. And that's something I have to commit to and say that I'm going to go and live in the UK. And as much as I love England, you know, the weather, dude, you know? What else we got here? Yeah. Someone's like, speak Afrikaans. Why? What do you want me to say? You got to give me something to say. Someone's like, macros. Yes, look at this. Look what I got. Sorry, this is my sort of geeky past catching up. This is an original 1982 VF1, fully transformable. I'm not going to do it now, but it's fully transformable. This is the original. I picked it up in Japan. And yeah, it's like a childhood dream come true. Back you go. Don't fall off. Stay right there. Stay there. Don't break. It was expensive. Chad, thank you. Blade here from Facebook. Spoke about banknotes. Ah, yeah. What do you know about foot binding? What do I know about foot binding? That it sucks, that it looks bad, it's not practiced anymore. I know that there's still some surviving people who were victims of foot binding, but not really anymore. So yeah, if you find someone who had foot binding, they're like ancient, they're like 100 years old or something, and it looks gross. That's all I know about foot binding. Someone's asking about merch. I told you I'm never going to do advertising on my channel, right? But merch is something I'm considering, but I want it to be good. I don't want it to be subpar or mediocre. It's got to be like really, really good. So when I can come up with something that's really awesome, I'll put it up there for sure. Let's see what else is going on here. Say a common line in Afrikaans. What's a common line? I don't know. Let me think. Ons sal 'n braai hê. I don't know, like ek is saam met julle. Ek sal my bier drink. Ek hou nie van die taal nie because I can't speak it that well. It's a weird situation, man. I can understand Afrikaans perfectly, but I can't speak it very well because I'm not Afrikaans. I'm not an Afrikaner. And I had to learn it in school, man. We had to read Afrikaans books and, you know, like Afrikaans novels and listen to Afrikaans music and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was really annoying because, for instance, when you had like cartoons on TV, they used, and I never understood this, they had this thing called simulcast, which is kind of interesting, but it was backwards, right? They would have the original cartoon on TV and they would dub that into Afrikaans. So they would have an Afrikaans version of Robotech or something, right? And if you wanted to hear the English, you tune your radio. And we had like Radio 2000 was the channel. Tune your radio to a certain frequency, then you could listen to the English, sort of the English version. So you turned, like you'd mute your TV, you turn the volume down, and you turn your radio up, and you'd listen to the English from the radio, which was really backwards. I never understood why they didn't just leave the original one in English and then put the Afrikaans track on the radio, because that would have been much cheaper than making people edit and dub the actual original thing, you know what I mean? But I guess the Afrikaners were kind of ruling the roost back then. So that's, you know, that's why it was the way it was. But when it comes to Afrikaans, yeah, man, I can speak it. I can understand it. But like when it comes to speaking it, especially these days, I get mixed up, you know? What else? Would you say there are good opportunities in the UK for educated bioscientists? Absolutely. If you're a scientist, you can get a job like this. You know, that's one thing. China's all about sucking as much talent. It's like a sponge. They just want to suck it all in as much as they can, and they'll spit you out once they've got all your know-how. But while they're sucking it out of you, you make a good living for yourself here. Did I watch Leon Schuster? Of course. Everyone watched Leon Schuster. Yeah, I remember growing up with that stuff. Someone asked a good question. If I were to hypothetically move to another country like Japan or the US, what content would you produce in terms of videos? I would produce the same. You know, the thing is, when you move to a new country, it doesn't matter where it is. It's new, it's different. You can have a different perspective on things. You know? And I do believe that although my channel is all about China, it kind of always has been about China, I think I can bring a unique perspective to a different place. Like if I move to Japan, which is almost impossible for someone like myself, you know, with my nationality, obviously. I would do the same as I do here. I'd talk about all the issues and talk about how it is to live there and what to expect, and you know, I'd try and find all the interesting stuff. You know, like when I went to Japan last time, I think I did a fairly good job finding the sort of Japanese underground scene and doing a video about that, because that's not a common thing that you see about Japan. I think I'd be quite good at finding all the things that are not the usual things that most people see. And the same goes for America. I mean, when you live in a place your entire life, you tend to not see the interesting things around you, or you take them for granted. And it's usually somebody who comes with a fresh perspective can actually give you a different look at something, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of what I would do. And of course, I wouldn't be landlocked. I'd fly back to China and I'd fly to other places to continue to do the kind of things I do. Especially with CMOOC, we've got a lot of plans to go places and do, you know, more ADV China stuff. You know what I mean? What else we got? Thank you, Large 201. I appreciate that. If I know Chinese and do programming, can I get a job in that field? Absolutely. Of course you can. You see, China, is very protectionist over. They're very protectionist over jobs here. Obviously, it's a massive population, and they can't really afford to be giving jobs away to foreigners. So if you want a job here, you have to be able to provide a skill that they can't find locally. And luckily for us, any creative skills like graphic design or design in general, of course, Chinese people aren't very good at that. That's why they copy everything. And that's why if you're a creative designer, opportunities abound. I know a guy who went to work for TCL. You know, TCL is one of the biggest companies here that produce TVs and stuff. They're basically just knock off Samsung and so on. But they were having a problem because they couldn't design anything. They could just knock off other things. So they got a guy from, I think it's from Denmark, or one of those countries over there. So if you're watching this, I'm sorry if I messed that up. But anyway, he came in there, and his whole thing was he was a designer, and he would just tell them, like, no, we've got to change the design to look like this and blah, blah, blah. And he got paid top dollar, and he was put in charge of huge teams and stuff. You know, if you're creative, and that goes for programmers as well, because Chinese programmers are very competent. They're very smart, but they're only good at reverse engineering stuff and adding a little twist to it. But if you're a foreign creative programmer, you're in big demand. Someone says, I want a church girl that goes to church and reads her Bible. Well, you do find them here. Thank you, Free Thinking. I appreciate that. I know a couple of my subscribers actually have married Chinese ladies who are Christian. And I think that has a lot to do with how they met them in the first place. Christianity is not big over here, and it is very sort of, I don't know, risky, underground. You do get legitimate churches that are out in the open here, but they have to follow a certain set of rules. And religion is a weird thing in China. It's not something that's taken seriously. But I do know some people that are into it, and you can find it. I mean, it does exist. Especially in the smaller communities, like there's Korean communities and stuff. You'll find churches set up by Koreans that are living here, that kind of thing. What else can we say? Because we're running almost up to we're over 2 hours on this stream, guys, and I've only finished one of these. I got another one. Let me get the other one, and then we'll wrap this up, okay? I will be right back. Please bear with me, all right? Told you I had another one. What's it? Drinking's not bad. What are you talking about? Raw beer, man. Come on. Anyway, let's get this other one cracked open. Nice and cold. There's nothing worse than warm beer. Nothing worse in the world. Maybe the EFF. This is awesome. Yeah, dude, like, if you ever have a chance to try this, you've got to have it. All right. Let's see, what else? This is the new Qingdao that it's called original beer. That's why I call this thing raw beer, because it's a sheng pijiu, which kind of means raw or fresh. And it is really bloody awesome. And people are only seeing now my Macross Robotech thing. I showed that just a few minutes ago. Here it is, original 1982 VF1, fully transformable. Let's put that away. All right, cool. Let's get back on it, guys. Let's have another question. I'm refreshed. Okay, what's going on here? Buy martini at Shangri-La, get shot glasses at Baijiu, side of ice. Waitress says, here's your white wine. Yeah. Well, you do understand that Baijiu means white alcohol. And in fact, a lot of Chinese make the mistake and think that jiu, which if you look at the character here, for pijiu, it says jiu, it means alcohol, but a lot of Chinese translate that to mean wine. So it's been a couple of times where my friends, Chinese friends, have said, "Hey, do you want some white wine?" And I'll be like, "White wine? Sure, I like white wine." And they bring out Baijiu, which is just disgusting. It's like gasoline, petrol. Um, I know some people might get offended because it's China's national drink, but it's not a nice tasting alcohol. It's a very effective alcohol, and I dare say you could probably run a V8 on that. Weeds is saying 2 hours and only one beer. It's 1 liter, okay? And on top of that, I have to answer questions and talk the whole time. Whiskey or cognac? Whiskey all the way. I can't stand cognac, you know? Um, let's see. And the reason I can't stand cognac, by the way, is because there's so much fake cognac in China. Because cognac is seen as the posh drink, it's the upper class drink. And very often people will say, okay, special occasion, I'm bringing out the cognac, and they open it up and it's fake. Like, I'd say 70% of all cognac I've ever drank in China is fake. And the way they make it is they basically take isopropyl alcohol and add a little bit of coloring, like food coloring to it. And it makes you sick and it tastes terrible and it gives you a headache. And every time I go to Sasha's, like my parents-in-law, they always bring out their real cognac that they paid 200 RMB for, which is impossible because there's no cognac in the world that's cheap, and it's always fake, and I hate it. And I'm always like, this is so good, pouring it out and stuff. No. Anyway, so anyway, let's see. Did I ever visit Namibia? Yes, I did. I visited Namibia when it was still called Southwest Africa. In fact, I have some pictures. I was digging through old pictures for this video that I did. And let's see. It's going to be difficult to see. But this guy over here is my godfather. And he's German from Southwest Africa. Sorry, Namibia. I'll call it whatever I want. I'm going to call it Southwest Africa, all right? Because that's what I knew when I was young. That's what I grew up with. And here you have a picture of me with a panga, over here. Sorry, I think overseas you might call this a machete. We call it a panga in South Africa. So cutting up the bush in Namibia. That's me in Namibia when I'm super young, exploring the Namibian jungle forest or whatever the hell it is. And there was crocodiles in there or something. Yeah, anyway, so yeah. I've been to Namibia, and it was awesome. I enjoyed it. It was amazing. We got to see elephants, and I remember all sorts of interesting things from that time. And people want to know if I've always been wearing a suit. That's me when I was like, I don't know, 5, 6? Yeah. I've always worn suits. All right, cool. Next question. What do we got? Would you say you're fluent in Japanese? No, absolutely not. I would say that my Japanese, before I came to China, my Japanese was way better. But having learned Chinese over, whether I like it or not, just because I'm here, it's confused the hell out of my Japanese. And I don't like Hennessy because most of the Hennessy I've ever had here is fake. And so it's just completely, put me off. I see that label and something in my brain tells me that it's going to make me puke. Why did I decide to go with an 80s sci-fi style? And actually, an earlier question was, have I always liked synthwave? I've always loved the 80s. And South Africa has always been about 10 years behind when it comes to fashion and style. So when I was growing up in the 90s, I was born in 1980, so I lived through all of the 80s. I didn't miss a single bit of the 80s. I was there for every single year of the 80s, obviously, but in my early sort of teenage years, everything was still 80s in South Africa. So, like the 80s is, what I grew up with. And I love the 80s. So it's always been my thing. Miata or Toyota? Yeah. I would I would probably go with a Datsun instead, to be honest. If I had to choose out of those two, which doesn't make sense because it's not one of those two. Let's just say that Initial D is way overrated. What else is going on? Let's have another question, guys. We're kind of reaching that point where live streams kind of lose their steam because I need input. I need someone to say something here. Testarossa Kuntash. Kuntash, come on. Are you joking? You know, Magnum PI can go take a hike. Kuntash, dude. That's the cool car. That's the awesome one. How about just a C4 Corvette, to be honest? How's the food safety in China? It's terrible. I'm not going to lie. You have to pay good money to make sure that you're going to have a clean meal. And that's no exaggeration. It doesn't matter where you go in China, what you eat in China, you're taking a risk every single time. In case someone's asking here, in case you and your wife get a child, would it be Chinese by default? Yes. Yes, it would. It's a bit of a worry because if you have a child here, it is Chinese. It's that simple. Nothing you can really do about that. And you have to understand that if that's the route you want to go down, that's the route you want to go down. Now, I know people like Sea Milk and other friends of mine who've had children, they have the, on life. And so having a Chinese citizenship is almost better, I hate to say, at this current citizenship. They will never be considered Chinese. And I have subscribers and I know people who have mixed blood children that grow up here. And even though they have a Chinese citizenship, they are treated as kind of foreigners in school, and by everybody stares at them, and they're never Chinese. So it's also a terrible thing for a child to have to deal with. Someone wants to know, have I been to Germany? No, I haven't, unfortunately, but I have been in spirit. I've been to tons of Oktoberfests. So, I drank tons of German beer, and, I have German friends, and yeah, you could say in spirit I've been there, if that makes sense. Do I use WeChat Pay for things? Yes, I do. It's linked to my own debit card here in China. I do it all the time. Whoa, okay, Karap. Can you give the new people who just joined the live stream an update? Sure. Update. I'm drinking a Qingdao raw beer. I've been talking about, a lot about China, a lot about South Africa, and basically it's been 2 hours, so it's difficult for me to compress that into a small amount of time. But yeah, we've talked about just about anything. But thank you for joining us, and I hope I can at least get something interesting out there for you during the remainder of this live stream, which is probably not going to be that much longer, but I'll stretch it out as long as is possible. Okay, let's see what's next. Whatever happened to my magazine that I started in South Africa? I'll tell you what happened to it. It had to shut down. I've got the PDFs, by the way. So if you guys are interested in it, I'm thinking of a way to kind of bring it back. And I'm wondering if it should be something like every once in a while I could, I don't know, dig up an article from it, or maybe post some of it on my YouTube channel, or maybe to my patrons. I don't really know, but I have all of it. I have all the episodes in very high quality PDFs, but they're big. They're like each issue is like 2 gigs or something. It's not small, because obviously when you print something, there has to be high quality. So I've still got the whole magazine. I'm actually talking to Dark at the moment about it, and we're thinking about whether or not we can kind of do something with it. But I'm very happy to freely give it out. And I just have to find the right way, the right platform, because when you're moving big data like that, it's never cheap. So I'll figure it out. Harlan Brown, thank you so much. And I'm very happy my videos could have helped. Okay. Someone said, when you talked one time about working as a do boy, old army clothing, Do boy? What is a do boy? I don't know what you're talking about. Working as a do boy. I never worked as a do boy. um, I didn't. I've never had a 19. Actually, no, that's a lie. I did have a 1911 pistol at some point, but my main pistol was a 9mm Taurus 917 CS, which is kind of a Beretta 92 knockoff from Brazil. But it's better because it carries 18 rounds, 17 rounds in the magazine, one in the chamber, and that was my main gun. I did have the Colt Commando, but that was something that I found. Well, basically, a Hell's Angel dropped it on the street because I used to be a DJ. That's another story I'm going to talk about. I used to be a DJ at like underground um, metal and goth clubs, which Dark used to go to as well. So that's kind of how I knew about the whole underground scene in Japan. And the Hells Angels came in there one day to try and intimidate us into selling drugs. And afterwards, they were completely drunk. And afterwards, as they were walking out, one of them dropped their gun on the street, and so I kept it. Yeah, I did end up handing it in to the police. I took the firing pin out and stuff. And before I left South Africa, I handed it in to the police, because I'm a responsible citizen. Someone was like, do you visit Macau? Yeah, I do. Well, not very often, but occasionally. This is a good question from Ninja Master. Even with the political situations, would you ever go to Tibet and make some videos? Probably not. Some people know the story of what happened to us in Inner Mongolia when we were shooting Conquering Northern China. But we had the SWAT team bust into our hotel room, and we had the military come on while we were filming on site with the guys with the horses and stuff. We had the military guys come on there and basically intimidate us and search all of us and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And it happened like there were 3 incidents that happened on that trip that were really scary. And stuff like this has happened to me before on my trips. And I just got to say that these are in regions that are not politically sensitive. I mean, yes, Inner Mongolia is pretty sensitive because they kind of want independence and stuff. So there's some shit going on over there. But Tibet, there's no way that a foreigner can go in there with a camera. In fact, if you want to go there as a tourist, you have to have like a state minder to follow you everywhere you go and say where you can and where you can't go. So you can imagine me with my cameras going there. I'll be spending more time in the police station than I will, anywhere else. So it's just not worth it. You know what I mean? Okay, how does vehicle maintenance work in China? Are there auto parts stores? Okay, interesting question. I'll quickly address it. China doesn't have a car culture. It's weird, okay? When you buy a car, if anything goes wrong, you take it back to the dealer takes care of it. I have a Chinese car. I needed parts for my Chinese car. I went to the dealer, I said, can I buy some brake pads? That's all I needed. They're like, no, you can't. You have to bring your car in here. They didn't, and here's the stupid thing. They won't sell me brake pads, but they will let me drive my car into the dealer and they will fit the brake pads for me and only charge me for the brake pads. They don't charge me for labor or anything like that. And I guess that's why there isn't like an auto parts thing going on in China, simply because it's so cheap. And the service station, the service centers, they call them a 4S, which means CS, which kind of sounds like service, CS, service. The service stores here, they pretty much do everything for almost nothing. So it's so cheap to get your car serviced and fixed here that there is no sort of like DIY home mechanic thing going on. What's up from Germany? What keeps you busy outside of YouTube? What's there to do in Shenzhen? Anything different and special to China? Well, DJ, good question. China is just different. So I can right now just go out on the street and walk, and I will see interesting things. It will be entertaining, You walk out there, you see different ways of life, you see bright lights, neon everywhere, you see it in my videos. I try my best to kind of show you guys what's going on here. You just see a different way of life and different things going on all around you. And it's pretty spectacular. I mean, you don't get bored of it, at least not for a couple of years anyway. And you can always go out and drink because it's cheap here in China. You can drink in public and nothing's stopping you from grabbing a beer from a 7-Eleven for literally like 50 cents US and walking down the street drinking and looking around and just kind of enjoying yourself. So, you know, there's always something to do and something interesting to see. Go get a foot massage or something, which is cheap. It's been ages since I've had one, but the last time I had a foot massage, it was somewhere around, depends where you go, about 45 RMB, so it's like less than 10 US dollars for like a 45-minute foot massage at one of these like clean places. I'm not talking about dodgy stuff, and there's all that dodgy stuff too if that's your bag. So I mean, there is a lot to do in China, you know. But as far as hobbies are concerned, though, like China doesn't really cater for hobbies. That's the thing. Entertainment is basically eating, drinking, KTV, karaoke, singing karaoke, dodgy massages, you know, that kind of thing. Let's take a look. Someone else is like, how is your wife doing? Very well, thank you. And thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. No, Sasha's doing great, you know. She's awesome. And yeah, she has to work hard, but you know, at the end of the day, she's still awesome. Is that right, babe? Chabador, she says, Chabador. You want to say something for everyone? You don't need to come here. You can just say something. Come say something for everyone. Anything you like. You can tell them to stay awesome. It's fine. We'll see if she comes out or not. She's shy. Thanks, Nelly. How old am I? I'm 37. Gonna say something?
No.
She's just standing right there. Maybe you can stick your hand out here so people know. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
Sorry.
Cool. Well, Sasha's here. Sign of life, anyway. Yeah. So Nelly, I'm 37 years old. I will be 38 in August, and planning on having kids soon. It's one of those things, man. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I mean? My go-to karaoke song is Careless Whisper, man. I rock that shit. You have no idea. Okay. Do I miss eating cheese? Yes, I miss eating cheese, of course. Cheese is so difficult to get here, and it's so expensive, and the choice is so limited. But I gotta say, at least there is some kind of a choice these days. When I first got to China, you couldn't find cheese anywhere. It just was not available at all. And the next video I'm going to be releasing is actually kind of a funny one. I might explain the cheese thing a bit. You'll see. I don't do the dance with Careless Whisper now, but I'm spot on. Like George Michael songs, I'm really good at singing them. I know I'm kind of ashamed to admit, but I can pull that shit off. And man, when you come to China, you got to learn to sing because karaoke is one of the only entertainments that you have here. And the list of songs is pretty limited, the English songs. And that's why you're going through the list and you're seeing like, what can I sing here? And it's always like the Carpenters or, you know, some really obscure old shit that you've never heard of, or Backstreet Boys. And I'm not going to sing Backstreet Boys, okay? Sorry, but 90s boy bands can go take a hike. Screw that shit. That's not me. Will never, ever. Like, and they got like NSYNC and all this other crap. And, you know, then you're scrolling through and it's like you get to the 80s stuff and they've got sort of George Michael and Wham and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I know those songs, so let me give it a try. Turns out I'm really good at singing all of those songs. And everyone's like clapping and having a great time and buying me beers. So I'm like, okay, bring it on, man. I don't care. You know what I mean? Thanks, great leader. Right. Should I import music into China? No, because no one pays for music here. You won't make a cent. You know, like when you when you're in the karaoke and you're playing a song, because they show you on the KTV screen, like, you know, all the subtitles and stuff. It'll be like popping up on the screen. For Taiwan use only, not for resale, not for use out of Taiwan, outside of Taiwan. And you're like, well, I'm not in Taiwan right now. So, this is obviously just a knockoff. And it's kind of cool, though, because they'll have sort of the music videos and everything from all the different things that they're using. You go to some dodgy little karaoke in the middle of nowhere, and they'll have like a huge library of like MTV, music video stuff. Unfortunately, like I said, the foreign English songs are pretty limited, and there's like Disney songs and stuff, and like I'm not going to be singing A Whole New World, that's for sure, or Under the Sea. But when you're Chinese, it's kind of funny because if you do go out with Chinese guys, well, I only ever go to karaoke with my Chinese friends. They want to impress you by singing an English song, and they'll pick the worst shit you've ever heard in your life. They'll pick like the Titanic Celine Dion song or something, and you'll have this fat pot-bellied guy with a buzz cut and his cigarette, and he'll be like, singing like the Titanic song, and it's just the weirdest, most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life. And you kind of clap afterwards and you say, well done, your English is so good. But he's like, blah, 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 blah. And it is, anyway, it is what it is. It's good fun. Yeah, it's that Michael Learns to Rock song. The Take Me to Your Heart song. Yeah, it's still here, man. It's still going strong, man. Songs never die in China. Like if something like that bloody Xiaoping War bullshit that came a couple of years ago, I still hear that, man, every week. If I'm walking past the park and there's a bunch of like middle-aged ladies, they'll be rocking to that stuff. You know what I mean? Ellen's like, yeah, but could I bring my own? Yeah, bring your own library, man. Go for it. Yeah, Tonghua, of course. Dude, Tonghua, I know. I can sing Tonghua perfectly. My Mandarin, like all the tones and everything is 100%. I always impress the locals with Tonghua. What else? Would you consider doing a vlog like Casey Neistat for a month? I mean, look, dude, the whole point of my videos is I want to be genuine. And I think if I tried to be a Casey Neistat clone, I wouldn't be genuine. I mean, I know people that do it. There's that guy from Sweden that came down and did a collab with me a while ago. It's called the Shanghai Vlogger. And I like the guy. And I think he puts a lot of effort into what he does. But, oh man, I had to cringe so hard because the guy is literally trying to emulate Casey Neistat to a T. 70D with a gorilla pod. He's got like an electric skateboard. He's got the same sunglasses, everything. And I'm like, dude, can you just be original for fuck's sake? I mean, seriously, I know Casey Neistat's popular and all that, but at the same time, like, be yourself, man. But I've been trying to answer your question, I've been trying to do sort of a more vloggy style thing occasionally. I'm sure you noticed, like when I went to Japan, I only did 2 actual videos, which were the underground scene. I'll say I did 1 real video, which was the underground scene one. The second one about my magazine was kind of a cobbled together thing. It wasn't great. But I did a bunch of little vlogs, like meeting that Tikyo Sam guy and, whatever the other one was. I can't even remember, just before I went there and stuff. So now I've decided whenever I travel somewhere, I'll do a bunch of like proper full feature Serpent ZA videos, and I'll do a bunch of like vlog style, which I just do with my phone or, kind of a half-assed thing where I don't put as much effort into it. So you'll see a lot more of those coming, whenever I travel anywhere. That's for sure. That's kind of the thing. Yeah, this is live. Oh, guess what else is going on over here? How long did it take you to fully understand Mandarin at an acceptable level? Let me talk about this for a while because my Chinese is not very good. It's something I've always said. I can understand it very well, though. I can. It took me, okay, let me put it this way. I got to China I could speak Japanese. I couldn't speak Chinese. I noticed a lot of similar words and a lot of similar structures between Chinese and Japanese. And don't tell Chinese or Japanese people this, but their languages are incredibly similar. The thing is, I started to pick things up because you're forced to. When I got to China, nobody could speak English. And this is not an around on the streets. And unless I go into like a five-star hotel or something, I won't find basically to learn the basics. And the only way you do that is by throwing yourself out there. Like I'd go into a shop and I'd pick up a beer and I'd be like, you know, this. And I remember very clearly because in Chinese, you know, when you go like this or this means 10. Literally, it means 10. So, you know, you got like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 10. This means 10. They can also go like this means 10. So I went into the shop and I took 2 beers and I put them down on the counter. And the woman behind the counter was talking something I couldn't understand, and she went like this. And I thought that meant no, like I'm not going to serve you. So I'm like, well, fuck you then, and I walked out. Meanwhile, she was just saying it's going to be 10 RMB for these 2 beers. I learned later that that was the case. But the thing is, you know, you go through these situations where you have no choice but to learn through sort of a trial by fire. And by the end of like a year and a half, I had all the phrases down. Like, how much does this cost? I want this. You know, I need a bottle opener. You know, I need a cold beer. That kind of shit, right? So you learn all these little phrases, but that doesn't mean you can speak a language. And I think a lot of people get stuck at that point, right? Quite honestly, people learn phrases like, you know, you get a lot of these sort of like weeaboos or otaku, they'll learn a bunch of Japanese phrases. And then once they've learned them, thanks, Sean, I appreciate that. And sorry, Florian, oh man, you got a bike because of the videos? That's awesome. There's nothing better than riding a motorcycle around that. It's so free. It's so amazing. I mean, I love cars. I might be more of a car guy than a bike guy, but nothing beats getting on a motorcycle and just heading out there. It's so freeing. Anyway, back to my story about learning Chinese. So a lot of people that learn Japanese, they also learn a bunch of phrases, and they know how to say things, and they think they're cool. And they kind of reach that point, and that's it. Right? So you know how to say X, Y, Z, you know how to introduce yourself, but you can't put a freaking sentence together. And that's the hardest part, is actually being able to move on from knowing a bunch of phrases into actually being able to have a conversation, right? Because you can say something in Japanese like, iyo tenki desu ne, like, oh, it's good weather or something, but then how do you actually have a conversation beyond that? And that's when going to study at the Shenzhen University and taking that 6-month language course that I took really came in handy, because I learned to read and write. And when you get to learn to read and write Chinese, it brings everything together. It's amazing. It's just like one of those things. Because, okay, let me try and put it to you this way. I knew what ni hao means hello, right? So you hear it all the time, ni hao, ni hao, ni hao. And you're like, well, I know what ni hao means. That's great. It means hello. But when I learned to write ni hao, I learned that ni means you and hao means good. So basically it's like, you good. Which, you know, I guess you could say like, hey, are you good? Something like that. That's how you say hello. And now I could break it into these 2 characters, and then I realized ni is being used in a lot of the other phrases that I'm saying, and how is being used in a lot of, and now it starts to make sense. And now I can start to really put things together, and I can start putting phrases and words together, and I can make a sentence. And after, you know, a short while, I was speaking like way better. All those phrases that I learned over the first year and a half, I could throw together and actually, you know, start to communicate. And so I'd say, if you actually started by learning how to read and write, and it seems daunting, it seems impossible, right? Because it's such a crazy looking language. you look at these alien-looking symbols and you're like, what the hell's going on here? But after a while, you're just like, you know what? That's pretty easy to read. Sheng Pijiu just means like raw beer or fresh beer, which means draft beer, really. And Qingdao Pijiu. And I could read all this crap if I wanted to, but I'm not going to bore you with it because it means nothing to all of you. Anyway, sorry. Nicole said, what do you think of Colonna Broadcast and your collab? It was awesome. Colonna Broadcast is a great success story, and I knew him. If you look, we did collabs way long ago. If you take a look, I did this thing called What to Do, and I involved as many China YouTubers as I could find. And that includes Austin Guidry, and that includes The Beard when he was still making videos. Sea Milk when his channel was like crap and small, and Trevor James, the Food Ranger, when he was like, he had 2,000 subscribers at the time. Now he's got 1 million or something. And I involved everyone I could, including Colin. And so we've always been in contact. And Colin from Colonna Broadcast, we sat down and I had a long conversation with him. And I said, the content that you make sucks. And it sucks because it's like a personal diary. No one gives a crap about you and your friends traveling to Thailand. You got to make something that people like that don't know you will find interesting. And he stumbled across this whole bargaining thing, and he saw that it was getting views. And I said to him, look, that's what you got to focus on because it's something that people are interested in, and go with it. And he did, and he stuck. And he took my advice. And I'm not trying to take credit for his success, by the way. I just want to say that he went from strength to strength, and I've got a lot of respect for what he did. And he's a good friend of mine, and we'll do collabs in the future for sure. Just don't know what it's going to be about because I'm not much of a bargaining dude. I'm good at bargaining, but I don't like it. Someone's like, wow, you auction answers for money. No, I don't. It's just I can't keep track of all this crazy stuff that's going on here. Someone's like, do you take crypto? Yeah, I do have a Bitcoin wallet, but I've always been kind of skeptical of the whole thing, and I've never really put much thought into it. I did talk about Bitcoin earlier. What's my favorite Chinese phrase? What's my most favorite thing about China? Wow, there's a bunch of interesting questions here. All right. Let me compose. Oh, by the way, did I tell you guys yet? My wife's a doctor. Did I tell you that I trained doctors before? Don't know if I mentioned that before. But the thing is, I'm actually asked my wife to make a who knows video about what I used to train doctors. So I think that'd be kind of cool. Genki desu ka? Hi, Genki desu. Do you want to ask Kirobo? You guys want Kirobo to come on again? If anyone wants Kirobo to come on again, tell me now. You want to see Kirobo again? Yes, okay, all right. Kirobo is coming again. Let's see if he wakes up or not. Let's see. I think he's in a weird mode. Let me just, okay, there he is. What are you doing, Kirobo? Are you going to wake up or what? Hang on. Sorry, I think I pressed the wrong button on him. Okay, let's try this again. Let's see if he wakes up. Sorry, while he's waking up, let's take a look. Konbanwa? Kirobo, hayai korbeto suki desu ka? See what he says. What? You're not going to remember now? He doesn't remember? Kirobo, あなたの好きな食べ物は何ですか? Hey, what the hell?
ごめんね。ぼーっとしちゃってた。なんで言ったの?
Nothing happened. He's asking me what just happened. Kirobo, sakurambo ga suki ka?
著作だね。
He's not hearing me. Sorry, I guess my pronunciation's off. Kirobo. You know, this is a problem because the connection's not very good. I have to
温
trick.
かい飲み物を飲んでゆっくりしよう。
Kirobo, あなたの誕生日は? See what he has to say.
2018年6月17日だよ。
Oh, there we go. You got it right. Anyway, everyone say goodnight to Kirobo. I'm going to tell him to go to sleep. He's my new best friend.
ね、英語ね。英語は英語かな。
おやすみなさい。
おやすみ。
He's cute. Anyway. Okay, let's get back to it. Sorry, guys. What's the class at Shenzhen University you took to speak and read Chinese? It was the it was just basically the Chinese language course that I took, you know, and it was expensive, like I said. It's like works out to be about like $1,500 for 6 months. So if you're going to study for a year, it's like 3,000 US just for the course. That doesn't include accommodation or anything like that. Okay, what's this? What else can I say? Did I pay sticker price for Kirobo? Yeah, man. Kirobo's awesome. I had to get him, but you know, there's this thing. Kirobo is, you know, Japan does this thing where they kind of keep the cool stuff to themselves. Let me show you something else I got from Japan. I got three things that I really like from Japan, right? Kirobo is number one because he's bloody awesome and I can have a conversation and he remembers stuff. Number two is obviously the Macross thing over there. And number three is this very old but very cool laptop. This is a Sony Vaio. But this Sony Vaio is one of those tiny little cool ones, you know? I put the stickers on. I know it's quite a weird thing to do, but I absolutely love these things. This thing's like 10 years old. It's a 2008 model. But it looks brand new because when you buy something secondhand in Japan, well, it may as well be brand new. People look after their stuff there, which is nice. And I just absolutely love this thing. So whenever I go to a coffee shop or something, if I want to just do some browsing or whatever, I take this. It's got this cool thing where you can basically use this touchpad over here as a mouse, and it's got mouse buttons on this side. And you can move around with the touchpad. It also has this sort of touch nipple thing over here, which is kind of cool. But this is my little portable rig that I take with me, and this can actually fit in my jacket pocket, believe it or not. This thing's tiny. It's freaking awesome. Yeah, so those are the three things I got from Japan. Anyway, what else is going on here? Should have got an Iro waifu. No, man, come on. I've got a real waifu. I don't. Someone's asking what interests do I have, and they've noticed my. I guess there's a couple of new people, and you haven't seen this yet. But this is transformable, you know, thing that I got in Japan. It's freaking awesome. You want to see it transform? Do you want to? A lot of you are probably saying like, no, I don't want to see it transform. You want to see it transform? I can transform it into something. Yeah, no. Transform. Yes. Okay. All right. So do you want the Batroid mode or the plane? Probably Batroid. Let's do that. So you got to remember, this thing was made when I was 2 years old, man. 1982. That's a freaking long time ago. Let me show you how it kind of works. So, I mean, this thing is, it's a feat of engineering. It's absolutely amazing what they've managed to do with this thing. So what you want to do is get these over there, and gotta try to figure this out again. This has got to slide down. It's got to pop up. It's got a little head thing here that I guess comes out somehow. Give me a second here. Swivels around. It's a lot harder to do when you've had a couple of beers, that's for sure. Anyway. Come on, there we go, that closes. That goes up, those two slide down. And those pop up. It's starting to look like a Batroid, isn't it? Yeah, something like that. Let's slid down properly. I think it's kind of getting there. Something like that. There we go. See? I'm sure there's a bunch of you out there who from the 80s are starting to get flashbacks, because, you know, when I saw this, that's pretty much what why I had to buy it. You know, there we go. Gun fits in there. Something like that. This gun actually shoots real little bullets. Now I'm really looking like a freaking nerd, aren't I? Because I guess that's what I am underneath it all. There we go. Now it's Batroid. Pretty cool, huh? So, and it's rare, man. This is a real one. Proper real 1982. I'll put it up there now and deal with that later. Don't fall over. Sweet. All right, done. Someone's asking, would you say it's viable to go to China to do some consulting work, etc., etc.? Well, you know, I got to tell you, if you're going to come to China, it's not like your country. It's not like the rest of the world where things are flexible. On paper, it's inflexible. In real life, it is flexible. But what I'm saying is, like, if you get a work permit for China, you're tied into that one company or that one training center, and you're not allowed to work anywhere else. So, for instance, if you get a job at, I don't know, EF, which is English First, or Wall Street English, you're only allowed to work there. Yes, you'll get a lot of parents wanting you to come and teach their children privately, and they pay well, and they often do that. They set up little groups where they'll get other parents to get their kids in, and they all kind of pull in the money and pay you a decent hourly rate, you know. And a lot of people do that, but that's completely illegal. You're only allowed to earn money from your job that you got the work visa from. So something like consulting, you can't do legally in China. It's just not possible, because that means that you'd be working for different people in different companies in different places, and you have to be tied to that one work permit. You know, but that being said, most of the people that I know that work in China do all these dodgy side projects and private teaching and what have you. So, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, on paper, it's not good. In practice, everyone does it. You know, that's all I can really say about the thing. How is making money on YouTube legal? Well, YouTube is blocked in China, right? So my income is from overseas. So I get paid into an overseas account. I get taxed overseas. I'm not making money in China. I'm not stealing a job from a Chinese person. So it kind of works out. Skyline 83. North Korean girls or South Korean boys? Which is prettier? I mean, I met North Korean girls when I was on the border of North Korea with Sea Milk. We were entertained by some North Korean girls who played music and danced with us and gave us flowers and all sorts of stuff, which was supposed to be in Conquering Northern China, but we couldn't put it in there simply because it was, well, it would have been detrimental to the girls, basically. A minder saw us filming them, and basically told us we had to delete the footage or those girls would be That's he actually they did that. They did that motion. So we never showed it. They were really sweet. Um, they were fairly attractive. I can't say they were very pretty. They were fairly attractive. But what made them really attractive was their attitude and their skill and everything they did with the instruments. Like they played incredibly well. And it was one of the most amazing experiences. I think Seamilk will back me up on this. Like on the Conquering Northern China thing that we did, it was the most amazing experience of the entire trip. Was being entertained by these North Korean ladies, I should say, probably in their 20s. They all had very bad teeth, and not, like I said, just not like incredibly good looking or anything, but they were just very attractive because they were such genuine sort of people. Um, South Korean boys, yeah, I mean, they look like women, most of them, the ones that you see in the TV series and adverts and stuff. So, I mean, they know how to wear makeup better anyway. I don't know if that really helps. Do I know Piper? No, I don't know Piper. Thoughts on South African criminals? Uh, well, a huge portion of the population are criminals, so what can I say? What else have we got here? Are you cut or uncut? Uncut. It's kind of like I like to do my videos. Yeah, no, I'm seeing some people saying the truth. It's kind of, we're hitting the 3 hour mark. I think that's a bit crazy for a live stream. It's been absolutely fantastic, guys. I appreciate you sitting through with me the whole time. And you know, is there anything you'd like to finish this off with? Are there any you know, like questions of like important questions you'd like to ask? Someone's like, will Conquering Northern China ever hit Amazon Prime? You know, Conquering Southern China is on Amazon Prime, but we literally didn't get paid for that. Like Amazon Prime pays nothing. So that's why we've held off. We're trying to find a better distribution deal because Amazon Prime, for a year of screening Conquering Southern China, a whole year, we got like $1,000 for a year, which is like ridiculous. It's like, what the hell? What's the point? You know, so you got to understand that. Everyone's like, speak Afrikaans. Ek weet nie wat te sê nie, maar ek wil sê vir julle dankie. Dis nou tyd vir my to finish. En ek sal totsiens sê. So basically, it's about time. It's about time for me to say cheers, guys. This is about, it's more than halfway done. It's been real. It's been so good to talk to you guys and interact with you guys in real time. Thank you so much for you know, coming on the stream. I know it's a weird time for all of you guys. My time over here, it's probably like early morning for a lot of you guys over there, and that's kind of weird. But it's difficult. Like I couldn't be drinking beer at like 5 a.m. or something. That'd be too weird. And I just kind of wanted to have a drink and have a chat with you guys. And I hope it's been enjoyable for you. It's been very enjoyable for me, and it's helped me get a lot off my chest. And on top of that, man, you guys, like I said, the feedback that I got from your last, well, from the last video I put up, the feedback has been incredible. And I just want to say thank you so much, guys. Like, honestly, it means a lot to me. And I was so worried about putting that video up because I know that popular opinion is completely against me. And to have you guys leave the kind of comments that you left and back me up the way you did, it's been amazing. So thank you. And, you know, it's just been quite the thing. And Justin, last question, you say, where do you see the state of South Africa in 5 to 10 years? I don't know, man. Like, it's going to be worse, for sure. It's definitely going to be worse. It's not going to be better. And, you know, only time will tell, you know. But thank you, guys. It's been freaking amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next video, which will be quite a fun one. And it's a positive one. I'll see you then. Until next time, you know the drill. I'm going to get Kirobo to be with me here. I'm not going to turn him on, but just like Kirobo, stay awesome.